my friends in film fandom, wherever you may be, and however you may be watching, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. The superhero genre started somewhere. It didn't just start, 15 years ago with Iron Man. It actually has a rich history that goes back a long way. And the movie, not the first, but the movie that put the superhero genre on the map is the one that we're here to discuss with today. And who else would I rather discuss it with than with my amazing co-host, Lady Cora, unable to be with us tonight. She had a hot date set up. She'll tell you all about that later. But here with us is my hetero life mate, Jeremy. What's up, brother?
I don't know how you saw through my flawless facade. I'm excited. I definitely, if anyone's gonna point out that I definitely don't have the wrong quote on my under my little name there, because I'll just say it's a multiverse joke. But anyway, you wouldn't hit this guy that had glasses, honestly, because you're gonna end up breaking your hand. So yeah, but no, I'm excited this was gonna be a fun week either way. I'm excited to do Superman and also Batman. So, but you'll have to wait for Batman. So that's coming down the pipe.
We will be on that one very soon. But before we get to that one, we are also here with Neil before Tex, our own General Zod.
Neil before Tex.
What's up, brother?
No. See, well, I am so committed to this review. I brought my own mini version of Crypto the Super Dog. See, here's even Crypto. Okay, so I didn't do cosplay, but I brought livestock, so I think I should at least get 3/4 credit. So we're doing something. So what's up, y'all? Hope everybody's doing well.
The pressure's on. What did Frank bring? Wait! I got it.
We're just lucky Frank's here. Okay,
Lex Luthor.
We're just lucky Frank's here.
Mastermind that runs all this shit, man. Come on.
Yeah, the ball joke was right there. I'm sorry.
It was right there. Come on. I make it easy,
Yeah.
What's up, BJ? Good to have you back. I hope you're doing well. What's up, Rachel? And again, sorry for not being able to make it up here on Tuesday. Some things came up. Nothing very important. It's not being a big deal. I just could not get home in time to get the stream going. But we are here right now, and let's dive right into it. We are here to talk, of course, about Superman. It was also marketed as Superman the movie. It's the 1978 superhero film based on the DC comic superhero Superman, played by Christopher Reeve. It is the first of 4 installments in the Superman film series, starring Reeve as the character. The film was directed by Richard Donner, based on a screenplay by Mario Puzo, David Newman, Leslie Newman, and Robert Benton. In addition to Reeve, the film features an ensemble cast of great actors, including Marlon Brando, Gene Hackman, Jeff East, Margot Kidder, Glenn Ford, Phyllis Thaxter, Jackie Cooper, Trevor Howard, Marc McClure, Terence Stamp, Valerie Perrine, Ned Beatty, Jack O'Halloran, Maria Schell, and Sarah Douglas, who was actually in a couple of things from the 70s and 80s I love. It depicts the origin of Superman, including his infancy as Kal-El of Krypton, the son of Jor-El, played by Brando, in his youthful years in the rural town of Smallville. Disguised as reporter Clark Kent, he adopts a mild-mannered disposition in Metropolis and develops a romance with Lois Lane while battling the villainous Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman. I always mispronounce his name. Ilya Salkind had the idea of a Superman film back in the early 70s, and after a difficult process negotiating with DC Comics, the Salkinds bought the rights to the character the following year. Several directors, most notably Guy Hamilton, and screenwriters were associated with the project before Donner was hired to direct. Tom Mankiewicz was drafted in to rewrite the script and was given creative consultant credit. And the film was dedicated to film both Superman and its sequel. It was decided to film both Superman and its sequel, Superman 2, simultaneously, with principal photography beginning in March of 1977 and ending in October of 1978. Tensions arose between Donner and the producers, and the decision was made to stop filming the sequel, of which 75% had already been completed, and finish the first film. Superman was the most expensive film made up to that point, with a budget of $55 million. According to Rotten Tomatoes, 94% of 77 critics give Superman a positive review, with an average rating of 8.1 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, quote, Superman deftly blends humor and gravitas, taking advantage of the perfectly cast Reeves to craft a loving, nostalgic tribute to American pop culture icons. The film was a critical and financial success. Its worldwide box office earnings of $300 million made it the second highest grossing release of the year. And it received praise for Reeves' performances and John Williams' musical score, of course, and was nominated for Best Film Editing, Best Music Original Score, and Best Sound at the 51st Academy Awards. It received a Special Achievement Academy Award for Visual Effects. Groundbreaking in its use of special effects and science fiction fantasy storytelling, the film's legacy pre-staged the mainstream popularity of Hollywood superhero film franchises. In 2017, Superman was selected for preservation by the Library of Congress for the National Film Registry. Boy, that was a big intro, but I mean, there's a lot to this movie. I mean, this movie really is, like I said, it's not the first superhero project by any means, but it is certainly the one that gave us the modern superhero genre. This was the juggernaut that set the whole thing off. I'll go to you first, Jeremy. Give me some of your quick thoughts on Superman before we dig into the spoiler stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what can I really say? I mean, it's even watching it now, it's like, yeah, you can tell some of the effects are, dated, I guess, but for at that time, I mean, that's pretty impressive, a pretty impressive feat to pull off. And like you said, it's kind of the start of like what we kind of think of now as like a modern superhero film. And yeah, I don't, not to be confused with George Reeves, because that's always a fun time to explain that. Different Superman. But no, Christopher Reeves was damn good in this movie, man. Like he, it's like it kind of has kind of camp. Like I definitely didn't, just come off watching Batman. I'm like, yeah, there's still the camp, but there's still kind of the, the dark seriousness of it. And this movie does, a pretty good job of that. It's, it's kind of campy. It's, what you think of as a classic superhero movie. Still holds up.
Yeah, Tex, how about you? What are some of your brief thoughts on Superman?
Oh, yeah, this is definitely one of the grandfathers of the superhero genre. If it wasn't for this film and a few others, you wouldn't have an MCU or a DCEU or now a upcoming DCU, whatever which DC version we're on now, because we just keep crapping the bed and having to redo things. This film, while not one of my favorites, you have to respect what it brought to the table. It's very dated, very, very dated. Actually, I kind of forgot how dated it was when I rewatched it the other day. But still one of those, it's an essential watch. You know what I mean?
I'm surprised you didn't say it was, The Godfather of superhero films. It was
I don't think it's the Godfather of superhero films, though. But that's an argument for a whole nother show, though.
It was right there.
Well, hey, you had you walked up to home plate. You could have swung for the fences there, Babe Ruth, but you left it in the in the dugout. So call your shot, boy.
I've got some things I want to say about Brando. We'll get there, I'm sure. I'm sure if anyone doesn't know what I'm probably going to reference, if Tex, I think, just kind of closely said it best about crap in the bed. That's, if you know what I'm talking about, you probably know where I'm going to go with this.
Well, there's, it could be something worse in that bed. Besides an Amber Heard, it could be a Mr. Ed in the bed. You know what I'm saying? But
okay, see, we're getting it. Now we're getting it.
we're getting it. But this one, like I said, this was the one that made superhero movies the genre. I mean, there have been other superhero properties. I mean, Batman and Superman had been done before. You mentioned Brian Reeves. Obviously the Batman stuff George Reeves, right? George Reeves. The Batman stuff that way before back in like the 30s and 40s, the old black and white stuff that is actually more scary looking than it is really entertaining, just because the suits are so terrible.
I own those. They are. It's something. It's something.
There's something to watch. So there's something to see. Yeah, but I mean, this is the one that really just blew the door open for the superhero genre in film, and it was after this that we would get that really not so great, but I still think wildly entertaining Spider-Man TV movie that came out with I forget the guy who played Peter Parker in that, but that was back in like the late 70s. With that, and then eventually we'd go on to like Incredible Hulk was getting big on TV in the late 70s into the 80s, and they did like the little mini Avengers thing on TV with the Hulk and Captain America and Thor. So this ushered in the modern age of superheroes, and eventually we'd have other a couple more Superman movies, and eventually we get to Batman '89 with Michael Keaton, the Tim Burton film, and then from there on out it's just been a step up all the way through the MCU. But this is this is the important cornerstone to the modern day superhero film. And it's full of what are now considered tropes in a superhero film. But I mean, these are things that this was the first movie to have aspects of it that you look at it, you say every superhero film needs to do it like Superman did in 78. They need to do this like that. They need to do this like Superman. This movie really is the inspiration for every other superhero film that's come since. Maybe not directly, but they're all certainly trying to measure themselves up against Superman in this early part of the genre. But let's start off by talking about the cast. I mean, Christopher Reeves, a relative unknown who had only done a few small things at this point. I'll talk about some of the people that could have played Superman later on. But I mean, Margot Kidder already kind of a big star at that time. Let's see. Like I said, I could go through this list of names again. I mean, we got Marlon Brando, already a giant star. Gene Hackman, very much in his prime at this time. Margot Kidder already had done plenty of stuff. I think Margot Kidder, was it before or after this? I think she'd done Amityville already. I'm not entirely sure. But
this is after, because I was
think it was.
This was after. Okay,
I was early mid-70s.
Yeah, Jackie Cooper, who played Perry White, already a big star. Ned Beatty, already
Great
a big
Caesar's
star.
Ghost.
Sarah Douglas, already kind of a big star at the time. She would actually do a lot more stuff on TV in the 80s. Terence Stamp, already. I mean, just so many big names for a movie that I think at the time they probably didn't even really think. It was kind of a crapshoot as to whether it would even be what it would end up being. I don't think they really had any way of knowing. I'll go to you first, Tex. I mean, again, the cast of this movie. I mean, even at the time, you look at these names and you're kind of like blown away at it. Now we look back at them, we see the absolute history of some of these names: Hackman, Stamp, Brando. What do you think of the cast, and who stood out the most for you?
Well, there's so many stars here. I mean, obviously the late great Margot Kidder as Lois Lane. I mean, rest in peace to her with the tragic end of her life and the issues that she had. But I got to go with my boy Terence Stamp. Not only did he get to play Zod, but he also got to play Jor-El in the Smallville Superman television series. I mean, Kneel Before Zod, the whole visuals, him getting put into the Phantom Zone. Like, he's minimal in this movie, but this sets up so much cool stuff. And I love the Zod character. I'm a fan, whether it was Michael, what's his face in Man of Steel from Boardwalk Empire or whatever. But like I said, the Terence Stamp version of Zod in this movie is my favorite. Obviously, you've got, Christopher Reeve. You could go down the list, and I'm sure we could spend an hour talking about it. But yeah, it's Kneel Before Zod, baby. He's my favorite part of all of these characters. So.
Yeah, Jeremy, how about you? Again, loaded with just great talent, not just people that would become big names, but people who are already huge names. Who stood out to you the most in this cast?
I think I'll just go with Gene Hackman, honestly. I mean, if you got Superman, you got to have a good villain to be opposite of him. And, it's just, there's something that's just kind of like natural, the way he just, slings his insults to, like Ned Beatty. It just goes right over his head because, of course, he's kind of just the nameless number one. I'm still doing Batman. You're my number one guy. To his number one dude. Yeah, like it's man. Because I was trying to think of what to also put for if I was going to do a quote for this movie. I would, it always sticks out in my head when he tells you the line of, some people can read War and Peace and come away thinking that's a simple adventure story, and other people can read the back of a chewing gum wrapper and unlock the secrets of the universe. We haven't dipped into like ridiculous shit yet. Like I said, I'm like, I hope we definitely do Superman, the Quest for Peace, because that was a great
movie. Jesus. Oh, Jesus.
We are at the top of the hill right now. It is it's a long roll downhill.
It's not quite the Clooney Kilmer Batman's, but I mean, it's not.
But
it's not.
Do you just like slumming it? Is that what you're going for here? Does absolute slop? Is that what we're aiming at?
Well, look, I mean, we're like I said, we're doing, the pinnacles right now. We're doing like Superman, and then we're gonna do Batman 89. I'm like, right. And then we somehow dip back into some really bad or just some really bad camp. Like, I'll watch the George Clooney's again if I have to, but man,
I mean, if you want to do camp, let's just say screw it and go Toxic Avenger, where they're literally poking fun at the whole genre. If you want to go camp, let's just go balls deep. You know what I'm saying? But
Oh, you know what? We could do Adam West. Why not? That's at least fun though. I don't know. Yeah, no, I would say Gene Hackman. He makes a pretty good bad guy and a good Lex Luthor to again play opposite of Superman. He's always kind of got the plan. He's got like 3 steps ahead of everybody, and even when everybody cocks it up, he's like, okay, we're gonna rework it. We're gonna go back and we're gonna do this right. You know what I mean? And I got to give him points for innovation for making a whole kind of luxury beachfront layer in the bottom of the subway tunnel. That's I wouldn't have thought of it, but I mean, hey, whatever, man. Location. I guess if you're trying to hide somewhere in Metropolis and be the greatest mastermind of our time, you gotta start somewhere, I suppose.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think one of the more important but less focused on roles in this movie was Jackie Cooper playing Perry White.
Oh yeah,
that's. I think every version of Perry White since then has been kind of somebody else's take on Jackie Cooper's version. I mean, he was kind of the prototypical stuffy upper management kind of guy that you would have seen in the 70s. Yeah. Very high energy, very sure of what he wanted, only wants it one way, so on and so on. It's kind of the typical middle-aged guy in a position of power back then. But also Glenn Ford as Pa Kent. I mean, dude, that guy's career going back to the late 40s.
I was gonna say
in film and stuff like that. I mean, I liked the what they said in the about gravitas in the consensus review. I mean, that gravitas comes from guys like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Guys that, they're only on screen for a short amount of time. And yes, Jackie Cooper is not a lead character by any stretch of the imagination, but he is an important part of setting the tone for the movie. But I mean, Pa Kent, just in that initial, just in the first act. I mean, this guy carries the first act because you don't even see Christopher Reeves until, what was it, 40 minutes into the movie or something like that? It's a relatively long movie for 1978. You don't even see Christopher Reeve until about 35 or 40 minutes into the movie before you get your title character. So I mean,
you even get him in the suit.
Longer. So yeah, I mean, calling these guys in to be that, not even the elder statesman, just be like, these guys have been good at this for, at this point, 25, 30 years. These are the guys that, we're gonna use their talent to set up this movie, and then we're gonna go off on the ride once Christopher Reeve shows up on screen and Superman takes over the screen. But these guys are gonna draw you in with their immense talent. But I mean, and the other thing, it's like Terence Stamp. He did the movie for the first 5 minutes of the first act.
Right.
And you can tell right from the jump that, especially in hindsight, because we've seen all the movies, since then, all the MCU and all that stuff. We've been kind of spoiled the last, 15 years or so. But I mean, this guy is still, in my opinion, after watching this movie again and only seeing him for a little bit, and knowing that Superman 2 is coming and so on, this is probably one of the top 5 comic book villains of all time. I think they understood that when Zack Snyder was putting together Man of Steel, because it's like, we need to go back to Zod. We're not going to be able to do exactly the Zod that Terence Stamp was. And I love Michael Shannon's version of the character. Don't get me wrong. I think he's very, very good. But it's like, this guy is one of the best comic book villains on screen ever. He's probably top 5. There's a menacing feel about him that you get from the really great villains. I think he maybe even a little bit more menacing than Thanos. In some ways.
Well, think about what, I mean, just the general Zod role. I mean, yes, he tried to overthrow the planet, and depending on your political viewpoint, you either like it or you don't. But he's a villain who was for his people. Like, whether it's the Michael Shannon version or the Terence Stamp, especially in the Michael Shannon version, because he was literally fighting to get the means to create his society again, which that's what he was born and bred to do. And, the best villains think they're the heroes of their own stories. And Zod is different from a Thanos. Thanos wants to wipe half of the world away. He's trying to bring his world back. It's I can see the motivations for Zod. I can feel. I mean, it's so hard to not talk about Man of Steel, which is my favorite Superman movie, in this review because they're so similar. Because Zack Snyder did see the brilliance of this film and just give you an updated version. Which, I mean, just from that scene alone of Michael Shannon going off of "I will find him" right before he gets sent into the Phantom Zone, and then the movie takes place. But Zod is one of those villains that. He's not, I'm going to poison Gotham's, fish supply. I'm going to he's a next level villain. Like you said, with Thanos, he's head and shoulders above any of them. I mean, he's just, he's Zod. He is who he is, what I mean?
Yeah. It's the cast. I mean, like I said, I could run down that list of names again, but good God. I mean, you're talking about people that are Hall of Famers. And I think that's one of the things that makes this movie as good as it is. It's like this little dose of Brando you get in the beginning, the little dose of Terence Stamp, the little dose of Glenn Ford and Jackie Cooper. It really does combine to just be an absolute. It's a cornucopia of great acting. And then you throw in this young up and comer who was perfectly cast for the role named Christopher Reeve, who this was legit his breakout role. I mean, people looked at him. He became the guy in Hollywood after this movie. So. Yeah, the cast was phenomenal, but let's talk about the plot of the movie for a second. I mean, again, not a direct iteration of any kind of comic book, but I mean, still very much based on the origin story of Superman. He does kind of do the typical comic book stuff, but again, it's not necessarily the story so much. A big part of it is the presentation. So the story was good, one that we were already familiar with as comic book fans to this point. But I mean, the presentation was fantastic. Jeremy, what do you think of the way that they put forward Superman's origin story and how he operates as a character in this
movie? Well, you have to, explain how, you got the last son of Krypton that, crash lands on Earth. I mean, what kind of better premise do you have than that? And it's, I like, and I'm glad you put that picture up. Like when they're talking about it too, like sending him off because, Brando knows that, Krypton's not long for this world. So kind of your contingency here is to send off your only son. And, because his wife's even like, well, why Earth? Like they're so primitive. They're behind us because haha, funny. But, I lost my whole fucking train of thought there. But no, and they're kind of in passing. It doesn't really feel too forced, but they're like, well, he's going to be different. Like you already see, like she already sees like, oh, he might have some problems because, here he'd just be kind of like what we consider a normal person, but on Earth, like, yeah, his speed, his agility, his strength even is all going to be different. And like, and it's kind of cool that like, he crash lands into the kind of literally into the hands of like the best people you could have asked for that, teach him how to be, I guess like we'll get there, but as Frank has there, truth, justice, in the American way. Right. Because, as we've seen about 3 trillion times, like if he hadn't, or if Superman decides to completely go off the fucking rails, Earth would be kind of doomed. You have this quite literally a god that could just wipe them all out in one go. And then you got to awkwardly team up with, Jared Leto to take them down. So, and that's nobody wants that.
As long as you have this card where we're on the same side. Sorry, that's it. Shout out to the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. I love Zack Snyder movies. I'm not sorry. Snyder cult, baby. Woo! Here we go. All right. Sorry. I did know that.
It was a little more fleshed out, and I did like it. But yeah, so it's cool that you get this. He ends up there as a kid, and grows up to be. It's like even though you see him, he has like those kind of. Because eventually you're going to have to answer those questions of like, why can I kick a football into the fucking stratosphere like with no effort? You know what I mean? I can outrun, as goofy as it looks. I know he's on wires or whatever the fuck, but he's definitely running like above the ground, but like past a train, And I know we got to have the jokes of like, faster than a locomotive, more powerful than a speeding bullet, whatever the fuck whatever it was.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive.
able to leap tall buildings with a single bound. He actually could not fly. Fight me. He actually couldn't fly. He could leap tall buildings in a single bound. It's canon. Anyway. But yeah, and this all again, like this sets up like this is an OG. This is the OG like superhero. It's Superman. So it all worked out great. And like, I mean, we know me on this show, I'm a big Batman fan. I definitely didn't buy this shirt 2 days ago or 3 days ago just for this, but I'm like, you can't be mad. This is a great movie. I still like this movie a lot. Like, I like this version of Superman. And as we said, this is the thing you look back on and think like, that's how you want to do it. This is the kind of movie you want to make, or that's the kind of hero you want. So all props to it.
Tex, how about you? What do you think of the plot of the film?
Well, obviously the plot works because how many superhero films that came after it have we seen that use the exact same format basically that this film does? You know, I think it was JSP down there in the comments that said this is, you know, basically the blueprint for the superhero genre. I mean, you know, this film just in the Superman canon of, you know, media, whether it's television, films, whatever it is, anytime they do a Superman property, there's always some tie back to this as the, you know, the beginning of what all this was. You know, I mean, if you go through Smallville, they had Christopher Reeve, they had Terence Stamp, there were so many. Yeah, I mean, Man of Steel, that there was even ties back to this. Like I said, every piece of Superman that has came since then has tied back to this. And, you know, some have done it better, some have done it worse, but plot-wise for this film, it works. I think it's a little long in getting Superman to where he needs to be. If it were me, I would have quickened that up a bit. But I know, I mean, it was a different time and a different era. And, you know, there's a reason why the, you know, American Congress has decided to preserve this film or whatever you said earlier, because it's a standard bearer for what this film walked so an entire genre could run later, I guess is the best way I could put it. But yeah, I mean, the plot's simple. There's a lot to it, but it works. So, you know, you can't shit on it.
Well, you got to remember, they were filming both part 1 and part 2 simultaneously.
Right.
So
right.
I would imagine the pacing of the storytelling was probably a little bit off because Donner was filming that under the assumption that he was going to be releasing Superman 2 probably within a year of this movie, but because of the falling out with the studio and them hiring another director and then reshooting a lot of that movie that is not coming out until 1980.
Right.
Like so yeah, it makes a little bit of sense when we think about how ideally it would have happened. But I don't think it affects the movie all that much. I mean, movie making in 1978 was a lot different than what we're used to now. So the method of storytelling is different. So, you know, the timing of how you arrange the first, second, third act was generally the same, but it was kind of they didn't toy with it that much. So I kind of get it. They spent a lot of time in the origin story, but I think the origin story is one of the fun things about this character. Yeah. You know, it's like, yeah, nowadays, but you see, here's the problem. It's like we can look at this with the modern sensibilities of what we know now from the MCU, what we've gotten from DC over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and it's gotten to the point where we're bored with origin stories. Like we don't like.
Oh, of course, yeah.
See Batman.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to see Batman's parents get killed in the alley again.
Yeah,
we don't want to go through all that. We're bored with it. We don't want to see Peter Parker get bit by the spider. I don't personally mind as long as it's done right. But it's like some people are like, why don't we know how this works. Why are we doing the origin story? We know that now. Back then, it was like, holy shit, we're watching him become Superman.
That's why I say this film walked so others could run later, because this laid the road base for it to get paved later on. Is this the best version of a superhero film we've seen? No. This is the reason why those others got to go be the best. That's why this film is important for me. So,
I think it'd be a fun experiment one of these days. We'll have to get together and just take all the superhero films, starting with this one, and just rank them.
Oh,
we'll put them on that. We'll put them on that website thing, whatever the hell it's called, the tier maker. Tier maker is what it is.
Yeah.
We'll
just put them all on that, and we'll just spend a couple hours just arguing about it. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But
that'd be great.
Charity stream. We'll sit down and do it all. Damn it.
Yeah, no doubt.
But
get us to 1,000 so we can yell at each other about how great Batman v Superman is, because I'll be the only one that's right. So it's all good.
Oh, Dark Knight's up there on like S+ tier. Okay, I'll fight you all day. Great piece of cinema.
But I think the plot was good. I think this is probably the closest, again, not a direct iteration of any particular storyline, but I think it is probably the closest to comic book accurate that any superhero movie's ever been. This one and maybe the first Batman movie with Tim Burton. I think that was pretty good.
This doesn't really feel like a comic book movie, though, which is so funny. They're taking stuff directly from comics, from costumes to characters and everything. But the way they're presenting it, it feels just like a traditional film, not comic booky. That's another thing that makes this stand out.
The only thing that really kind of did was like it opens up with like you see a kid like opening up an Action Comics and that's Superman. He kind of like moves through it, but it just kind of goes into it. And yeah, it just kind of feels like
this doesn't feel
a simple adventure story of this guy from Krypton.
Yeah, this could be anything. Oh, a guy from space. This doesn't have which I think is a negative to some people, but this doesn't feel like a comic book film. It's just action adventure or whatever you want to call it. But it is what it is.
Comics.
I think it is much more. I think it is much more of an artistic piece than what we get out of some comic book films these days. Mm-hmm. It's like I love the first Iron Man, but it's not really an artistic piece. I think that like Shang-Chi and the Eternals were more artistic pieces. A lot of other movies haven't been. I think this movie kind of was at the time. It was, again, this movie, like I said, Superman and Batman specifically had been done before. And I think at this point, Hulk was already on TV. The Bill Bixby Hulk was already on TV. But it's like
I think so.
You'd never seen a superhero portrayed like this. It was very, very new. It was pretty bold at the time. It looks dated now after we've seen Iron Man and Thor and so on down the line, the modern Batman and all that. But I mean, for the time, but for the time, this was something extremely new. What were some of the visual effects that stand out that stand out today? And you look at them and say, hey, even though I know that there's wires, even though I know there's stuff, they're still actually pretty good. I don't know, you got plenty of green and blue screen. Mm-hmm. Jeremy, what do you think? Was there one or two scenes that, as you were watching this movie leading up to this review, you looked at them and say, you know what, that special effect still works?
I'm also very jealous of my mom to see it back in that day. That's awesome. I wish I could go back and rewatch something for the first time. I'd love to go back in time and be in the theater for for Star Wars. I would love to go back in time and see something again for the first time. Right, if I had a time machine, man, some of these movies I'd love to have actually seen the day they came out. That would be wild.
That would be great.
I think the closest one I always do mention is if anyone takes a stab at how old I am, no, I do remember seeing The Phantom Menace in theaters, remembering how fucking wild that was.
I went and saw it.
Yeah, I'm that I remember, and I'm glad I do. That was a good segue into effects because I definitely derailed it back the other direction. But Cora's not here, so I'll squirrel it a little bit. I would say, spirit, damn it. I would say for me, because I'm more of a practical, a practical effects kind of person. So the thing that stands out to me is the moment where, it's an iconic piece of the first time. Well, not really the first time. We see him fly away from the Fortress of Solitude, but the first time we see him just come out and boom, there he is in full Superman costume. And he goes up and saves Lois Lane from the helicopter crashing off the top of the Daily Planet. And it's there are scenes that it's I know it's probably on something and it's off screen, but seeing Chris Reeves in the shot, but also it looks like he's holding on to the bottom rung of that helicopter, just effortlessly putting it down. You believe it, and it's we look at it now and think, oh yeah, that's definitely a green screen. He's definitely on a cable somewhere. But making it seem more believable, the best way to do it is make it real, because your eye can kind of catch the other effects, but seeing it that way is kind of cool. The only other thing the thing that I would maybe defend some of the green screen effects is, I think maybe they even kind of knew. It seems like a lot of them were also lit and kind of shot in a way that seemed more believable. If he's flying through Metropolis at night, it's very dim. There's not a whole lot of lights on his face, and they got wind or a fan somewhere blowing his cape as he goes. So the attention to detail was there, and I definitely appreciate that. It didn't look like overly goofy, but like you could still, even now and definitely then, you could still believe like, oh yeah, this guy's Superman and he can do all this crazy stuff, like, you know, lift a helicopter up with one hand and hold on to Lois Lane. And that was also a contender for my line, like, you've got me, well, who's got you? It's a great line.
I looking back, I was watching this the other day. I was like, God, that line is so corny, but it still works so well.
Oh yeah.
It's like, now that line is so tacky and so terrible, but I'm like, for this movie, it's still kind of magical in its own weird way. Yeah. I don't know, Tex. What about you? Was there one or two visual scenes that, dated as they may be, still worked out really, really well at age?
Well, I'm gonna cheat and modify your question a little bit. Visually, for me, the thing that stands out the most is Zod and Ursa and the other one I can't remember getting sent. That whole sequence of being judged with the faces above them, it was very 1984, like had a very creepy vibe to it. And then them actually getting put in the Phantom Zone, where like that flat piece of glass is like floating in space, and then it hits them, and then you see that they're pressed against the glass. I mean, that thing has been memed on Family Guy. I believe they even use that effect in Smallville as well. That has been done so many times because of this movie. But the other thing what's so memorable is John Williams' soundtrack for this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the Superman music that came from this. Oh, yeah. Like, you can just say the Superman theme, and you can hear the horns. You can hear it in your head. And you don't even have to see the movie recently to know what it is. I mean, it was so iconic that they wanted to use it in Man of Steel, but legally they just couldn't work it out. That's why Hans Zimmer had to do a new Superman thing. And it's just, those things for me, I mean, there's so many memorable things. The first time Superman flies, the first time you see him in costume. There's so much that is memorable about this. But for me, it's that Phantom Zone effect of how they did that and just how they presented it. It's very dated, but, for me, that's the best of all of them.
Yeah, one thing I don't want that you guys have talked about, and I don't want to not mention is the score. I mean, when I was watching this the other day, I was sitting here, and as soon as that horn hits, it goes, dude, my heart felt warm. I was just like, God, I am a kid again. Just hearing that score.
Oh yeah,
John Williams is the best it's ever been as a
dude. There's so much that John Williams brings. Like it's like it's two halves of the medium. Like, yeah, you have the movie and the visual of what's going on, but like you get this this emotion, like Frank said, like it just fills you with like this joy and this like I like that it's kind of got the video game thing where like they make a score to be because in a video game you're going to hear that over and over and over. You could sit here and I could hum out Mario right now and you're going to be singing it the rest of the fucking night because it's catchy and it never gets old. And I'm not gonna lie, I was listening to that theme, and I was listening to the Superman theme, and I think I just played it on repeat a good number of times. I'm like, it still hits you really well. And again, it's all credit to John Williams. I don't know what we do without this man. And honestly, you could run down his list of like Indiana Jones, Jaws, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Superman. This man, a lot of credit to a lot of movies you've probably seen, and it's like that's a whole other big half of a movie that you're getting from this guy. I'm gonna be really sad when he goes. This dude's a crazy good composer.
Oh
yeah, Jurassic Park. Thank you.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. It's like
I missed something. I missed something
for Star Wars, for Jurassic Park. It's like it seems like every movie this guy's been involved in.
Love me some Jurassic Park.
As soon as you hear the first 2 or 3 notes of whatever song it is, you are transported to a different place in time. To the first time you were in a theater watching Jurassic Park, to the first time you were in a theater watching this, the first time you were in a theater watching Star Wars. His music is in and of itself something amazing, and you cannot overstate how good he has been.
Well,
it's funny.
I can remember like whenever cell phones first, whenever you could have like a custom ringtone or whatever. Of course, you had like the Batman theme from '89. You had the Halloween theme from '78. You had this John Williams theme was one of those ringtones that you could get, whether it was like a symphonic version or a little later on the real version. This was one of those that got used up to that level that jumped into the regular people, not just the hardcore comic book super fan nerds, but the regular, just the atmosphere of everybody. Like this thing has been on everything. So that's why I wanted to mention it as iconic, because you can't not have this movie without that theme in it.
I was going to mention my mom just put that up there. I was like, you want to know a funny story? You want to know what?
There you go. See, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, my ringtone for or her ringtone for me is the Adam West Batman. So
there you go.
I still love the Adam West Batman. He's one of my favorites. I will watch that all the time.
It's funny. I always forget because like when I call her and then she answers yes, Batman, I'm like, what? Oh, right. I forget that. Oh yeah, I didn't hear that part. You heard and then it's me. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's
But for me, I look. We talk about this all the time when it comes to horror. Practical effects are the best effects to use whenever possible. Yes. So all the wire work that Christopher Reeves does when he's flying away, flying around, the wire work is still quite good. Not the stuff against the blue screen or against the projection. Yeah, it looks really dated and grainy. I get it. I like it for the movie and stuff. It's great, but I mean, when he's at street level and he's flying away, and that's all practical, done with just camera angles and the wire work, that still works. That to me is because you can't fool your eye. You know what I mean? Your eye knows when something's a little tweaked and it's a green screen or whatever. It's been touched up by a computer. But you cannot fool your eye into seeing something that's just actually happening on screen. So as he's just like on the wire being pulled up off set and flying away, that still looks fantastic to me. Practical effects are still the best effects in movies. And it's unfortunate. One of the unfortunate things about the modern age is that we've become so reliant. And this started back probably in the 80s. And it continually got worse. I think in the last 10 or 15 years, they've tried to get back to as much more practical stuff as they can. But I mean, movies became way too dependent on CGI and shit like that. When most of the time, the practical stuff, it just looks better. It might be a little more expensive at times. It might be harder to set up. But I mean, come on, the results that you get on camera are night and day.
Well, I mean, go back to the greatest werewolf transformations ever, and I'm using this for a reason. You've got American Werewolf in London or The Howling. Like, I guarantee you pull anybody who's a film cinephile, whatever, or just a horror nerd, and what's the greatest practical effect ever? Most people are going to say one of those two. And, we've had a million werewolves since then, but those two that were practically done still hold up to this day. Practical, at least for me, if I see a practical effect, I know I take it a little more serious because I know it's physically there. If it's just a green screen, oh, okay, well, that's just really bad CGI. Like, I've been watching a lot of 2000s horror. That was my New Year's resolution. I'm going back to a lot of films that I haven't watched in a while. I'm like, oh my God, some of the CG, it just does not hold up. It looks bad. But when you see something practical, you give it a pass most times because at least they were putting in work, whereas otherwise it's just some guy behind a computer screen putting it on there. That's why it feels differently.
It's also really sad that it's kind of like quite literally a lost art that people like. A good example is Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
people make the miniatures of different scales of stuff. You make sets. You make. There's probably. I think I saw it in the behind the scenes when they did Star Wars. There's about 5 different sizes of the Falcon, like just to make different shots happen. And like matte painting a whole hangar of like the Death Star and all the troopers just standing there. I'm like,
right.
It sucks that like people don't really do that anymore. It's like because you can, like Sax was saying, you visually see that, and to me, a visual effect that's practical, I like it because I get intrigued. I lean in and I'm like, so but how'd you do that? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I know that tangibly you could do that if you had the means to. I don't know. Like I think Back to the Future. yeah, you lay 2 tracks of gasoline and light it on fire, speed the roll up, and there's your effect of the car. But seeing the CG, I'm like, okay, well, any computer, and especially unfortunately now, you just clack away to an AI and boom, there's your picture. So I'm not discrediting, like, yeah, there's part of work that goes into CG, but it's not as, I guess.
Oh no, I'm not discounting.
No, I know what you're saying.
I'm not doing
like it's not as involved, and it just kind of feels like you could have done better, or just done it for real.
Well, do you think, okay, in 25 to 30 years, do you think the guy that came up with, this CGI made me famous like a Greg Nicotero or a Rick Baker or a Tom Savini? No, you're not going to have that, because these guys literally created how you make Superman fly, how you make this monster, how you make dinosaurs look real in Jurassic Park. These guys created something, whereas this generation's creators, like you said, click clack on a keyboard and on a green screen, and put on this green suit and we're going to pretend you're Darkseid or a T-Rex or whatever it may be. There's the difference,
It can work, but I'm like, the problem is now it's like it's a standard of like, okay, but you got to at least make it somewhat convincing then, because that's what you want to do with an effect. You want to convince somebody that that's what you're seeing and that's what's happening.
Right.
That's I had another damn train of thought, and hell. So we're talking about the dinosaurs now. I sidetracked myself. Also, if anyone doesn't know, that Dog Days of Fortnite, if it wasn't obvious, is actually Brooding Gamer in disguise. He has a new. I'm gonna shout him out. Fuck it. He's got a new thing where he does Fortnite stuff. So if you want to go check that out, go check him out. That's what he's doing there. If that wasn't the giveaway. He heard werewolves. We got all tingly.
Yeah, and here hiding under alt accounts. I see what you're doing. I see your game.
Hey.
Okay, Casey, way to go, pal. You and your 27 accounts.
Well, because we got to abuse every single one of them. That's the thing. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll think of it in a second. But carry on.
How does this? How do you guys think this movie compares to modern superhero films in the genre? Not necessarily on the CGI or visual level, because I don't know if that really compares. But when it comes to in terms of storytelling and production, how do you think it measures up against what we've got in the last several years from Marvel, DC, and maybe a couple other ones?
Something like a storytelling point.
From a point of view of like storytelling and production. I mean, maybe just take it. Maybe just weigh it all as a whole against other movies. But I mean, how does it compare to these? I mean, what are some of the strengths that this movie has that modern day superhero movies may not, and vice versa?
I think sometimes the problem is like we're looking through hindsight with the rose tinted glasses, right? The thing is that this kind of has the advantage of is like, when you think about, you say Star Wars, everyone's like, oh yeah, you've seen something of Star Wars, of Star Wars, even if you're not a fan, you know who Darth Vader is. You probably even know who the Emperor is, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia. But in that time, that was not a thing. That's the first time you ever saw the Death Star. You saw Obi-Wan Kenobi, you saw Han Solo. I'm like, so it's something that's like, oh, this has never been done before. Something like this movie probably hadn't really been done. I mean, yeah, like I said, we've seen like with George Reeves Superman, with Robert Lowry, and I'm trying to remember the other guy who did Batman in the 40s.
I can't remember.
There's two of them, and I know one's Rob Lowry, and I can't remember the other guy's name.
Yeah,
but it's like, yeah, it's been done, but like, to see something like this, to have more, it's not just a goofy, or I can say Adam West, but like, it's not just a goofy running around in a costume with your underwear on the outside, where some days you just can't get rid of a bomb, another Monday.
If those fucking ducks would get out of the goddamn way, he could have got rid of that fucking bomb. Just saying. Bullshit. And then nuns. What were nuns doing at that shanty town area anyway?
What was everyone doing in that
just
one
saying,
pier?
Just saying. I have questions about that scene. We need to talk about that movie sometime. I've got questions, Adam West. I know you're dead, but I need answers, damn it.
I'm down to do the Adam West Batman movie. But because I off quote that so many times because it's one of my favorite fucking parts of the movie. It's worth getting to that point where it's like some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? And it's this comically like cartoony, like big, like round bomb you see like from the like the cartoons in the 40s, the big fuse coming out of it. But like again, even that, like you still don't really care. It's like it, you know. I was gonna say it has the advantage of being in the time that it was made. That it's like you can do more with this than just, you know, just some wires and, you know, it's obviously a dude flying, or looks like he's flying to a backdrop of something else. This can kind of expand it a little more, and that's I don't know, you can always tell an origin story, and like if we go to like, you know, say Man of Steel or even Batman Begins, yeah, we know what happened, so we're looking at it like, okay, so what are we doing in this one? Like, what's going to be different? So it kind of unfortunately has that we're at this point now where we've seen all this stuff before.
Yeah.
So telling the story again, it's like sometimes you may not mind. Like we've seen Batman's parents die about 7 different times, but we're all like, yeah, okay, fair enough. This time it was Negan and Maggie, and this time it was.
Six would say that's my favorite time with Negan and Maggie, but you know, it is what it is.
It's going to slow down the Walking Dead set. They're like, hey guys, throw this stuff on real quick, and you're gonna get shot. Okay, cool. Next.
I'm so mad that they didn't do the Thomas and Martha Wayne in the freaking Flashpoint movie to have Negan as Batman. How cool would that have freaking been, dude?
You
That's
know
bullshit.
damn well
They didn't do that.
There'd be so many jokes about the comedian, because I'm like, he kind of looks like Batman already in that movie.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, of course.
So yeah, that would have been kind of interesting just to have, you know, Negan walk out there in one of those little multiverse spear worlds, and you just see him like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
have
that would
Maggie as the female Joker. Hell yeah, let's do this thing.
Like you, come on, you gave us Nicolas Cage Superman in a way. Just
yeah,
damn it.
that CGI abortion. I don't think so. I don't know what that was. That was horrible.
But see, that's what I'm saying is like, I know what you're going for. I can kind of forgive it because I pointed at the screen, went, ha, ha, ha. There it is. We're never gonna get that.
I appreciated the effort.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
As much as it looked like a damn PlayStation 1 game, I'm like, oh, okay, but I know who that is. I get it. Hey, you want to make a video game of, you know, Nicolas Cage Superman? I'll play it. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going for. Is like you always have to do another bigger or better. It's got to look more polished or something. But like, and we've said it before. There's only so many stories you can tell, like just in general. And of course, like, oh, you take bits of a story from, you know, from this, and you know, a lot of times you always say like, oh yeah, there's Shakespeare in this. Like, yeah, sure, there probably is, but I think that's where my point was going. I'm like, I think it's just the time that it came out. It's like, well, any time was going to be the right time, and it was the first time that had been, you know, done, and of course, it blew people's minds. It, you know, it was no chump. So I don't know. I'm tagging Texan, like, help me. I don't know. That's kind of the problem I see.
Oh
now.
yeah,
Like,
no, I'll take the hot tag. It's all good. Yeah, no, I kind of don't want to compare this to others because I don't feel it's fair. Obviously, this is, you know, one of the beginnings of an entire genre that would give us so massive of things later to come, whether you're a Marvel or DC fan, it doesn't matter. You know, when you compare cast wise, I mean, my God, Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, Terence Stamp, Margot Kidder, A-list cast. I mean, this cast beats a lot of other superhero casting, I would say. But overall, factoring in performance, look of the film, just everything, just apples to apples, this isn't even the best Superman movie. I think Man of Steel is the best Superman movie that's ever been made. And I know it has its detractors because, you know, Zack Snyder and blah, 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 whatever. But when you realistically look at Man of Steel and Superman 78, Man of Steel took the best parts of what this movie had, gave it to you in a modern, presented, a little bit quicker paced with obviously better effects fashion, and gave you the story. Now, if you're looking through rose-colored glasses at the nostalgia here, of course you're going to say Superman 78 because that's the popular answer, because we, you know, I'll never understand why a remake of a film can't be better than the original. I've never agreed with that, and I don't know why so many people do. Because to me, that's a stupid way to, hold yourself. But like I said, I give this film credit for starting, but it's by far not the greatest that we have got. So many people have took this formula and went leaps and bounds, if you want to use a Superman term here, to make a better film. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to compare it because I don't think it would win. I could probably give you 15 other superhero films that did better than what this one does, but that's just me.
Well, one of the ways I think it compares best is if you look at some of the better superhero films, or the ones that are grounded, they feel like they can exist in this world that we live in. That's one of the things that draws a lot of people to the Christopher Nolan Batman films. It's like the one thing that I haven't disliked it, but one of the things that kind of that I would have done differently with the Tim Burton Batman movies, with that entire franchise, that entire 4-movie set, not just the Tim Burton directed films, is they're in this fantastical fantasy world. Whereas Christopher Nolan's, they take place in a modern city that it looks like that anybody today that we live in. So that's one of the things I like about it. Marvel doesn't always do that. Always do it that way either. It's like some movies you kind of get it, like the Eternals and things like that, or Guardians of the Galaxy that's taking place out in space. Yeah, it's not as grounded. But it's like even stuff that has happened here on Earth, like Iron Man. It feels like it's in a different world. It doesn't feel like it exists where I exist. This movie, especially for 1978, it could have been happening in. It takes place in Metropolis. That's where Superman lives and does all this stuff. But it's like, obviously, he's in New York. It could have taken place in downtown New York. It could have taken place in L.A.
Right.
It feels like it took place in the world that we exist in, which gives you a different connection to the characters. It gives you a different connection to the world. And that's kind of the drawback of the comic book movies, is that so many of them take place in these weird places. Thor takes place in Asgard in parts anyway. So many things take place on other planets, other realms, and so on and so on. It's hard to really feel that kind of a connection unless you feel like it's happening where you live. This movie felt like
I disagree with that.
That it feels like it happens in the world that I exist in, more so than most comic book movies.
It's Metropolis, but that Statue of Liberty looked awful fucking familiar. I'm like, wait, so is it New York? Whatever.
There's more than one Statue of Liberty, believe it or not.
Yes, but I'm just,
I can appreciate the real, wanting to look at a superhero through a realistic form, because once again, Man of Steel, that's what Zack Snyder was going for. He just did it with more fantastical elements. But 9 times out of 10, if I'm going to a comic book movie, don't take the comic book out of it. That was my biggest problem with the Nolan stuff, was if you're taking the Nolan Batman, okay, what is Gotham known for? It's basically always raining, very gothic looking, and Gotham City is a personality. They took that away for the Nolan movies. It was Chicago or Detroit or New York, whatever. Whereas like Batman v Superman,
like, I know where that place is.
Right. And I see the value in a realistic take. But if I'm going to a comic book movie, I want it to be comic book. I'm not going for realism. I'm not going for a documentary here. Take me on a ride. Tell me a story here. That's what I'm going for. Don't strip elements away to tell your story. And that's the one thing that I think Nolan messed up on. And it's kind of aged not as well, because you stripped away a lot of those comic elements that made Batman great, though. You know what I'm saying?
We're talking about something from the 30s. Like, it's just like, yeah, it's big city,
right.
A lot of crime. Like, yeah. And we have those. Like, it's, an essential, it's a basic place to be. Now, I do appreciate, like, seeing places like Asgard. I like seeing these places out in space. Like, I want to go on a ride too. I want to see these places. I'm like, Nat, if you can bring that, that's fun. I go somewhere we've never been.
Hell yeah, Peter.
I could probably drive 5 minutes down the road here. I could be like 5 minutes down the road and probably be in Gotham City for real. Because I live here. But that's, I don't know. He said Nolan. I leaned in like, Say something. I dare you. Go ahead. I think Frank watched was like, I leaned in like, what are you going to say about Nolan films?
Well, no, because like, no, that's one of the things I like about the Nolan movies. Is it feels so much more grounded. As a matter of fact, Nolan even said he wasn't going to do some of the more fantastically weird bad guys because he wanted bad guys that were grounded in real life. Like Joker is someone that could exist in real life. Bane is someone that could have existed in real life in that world. It felt more.
No. See, that's the one example that
no Penguin, that kind of thing.
No, now Bane is a weird.
Yeah, but
so he did change it, and that's why I was like, why though? He's a big roided up dude with the Titan serum or whatever. I'm like, but now he's just bulky. Sean Connery, Darth Vader looking.
His version of Bane.
Yeah, he's just Sean Connery Bane that talks like this, and you can't really understand him. That's what that Bane was. Did he look?
That was after they fixed his voice. Jesus Christ, what it felt like before.
That's the better version. But it's like I said, I understand why Nolan wanted to do a realistic Batman was because nobody had done that before. I mean, prior to that, you had George Clooney with bat nipples. I mean, he had to change it. He had to do something. But I'm going for a comic book. Give me comic book. Don't do some weirdo interpretation and strip it down.
You said Nolan. I thought you meant Burton. I was like, no, that came first, and we didn't have Batman.
No. I'm talking Nolan now. No, Tim Burton just wanted everything as gothic-y as possible because at his heart, Tim Burton is still Tim Burton will forever be that edgy teenager that doesn't comb his hair. That's what Tim Burton is, just in a nutshell. So
I'm right here.
It is what it
say
is.
My name, Tex. Jesus.
Just saying.
But that works though. I know we do talk about, or at least Frank always says it's kind of a hit or miss with Tim Burton. I'm like, but this is something that worked. That's a dark, dark character, dark place to go to, and it makes sense for him as a storyteller to tell that kind of character because, it's a guy that preys on people, criminals' fear in the night, and I mean. I'm surprised she hadn't actually seen this.
Tell your friends about me.
She hasn't seen this version of Batman. I was like, oh my God, no. You don't understand. This is the one. It happens like 5 minutes in the movie. Who are you, man? I'm Batman. Drops him. I was like, there it is. There's the mic drop. You know what I mean? Yeah, see, you're even see? Yeah.
I felt man.
See.
Yeah, see, just saying it's just
when we do the haunted cave and
somehow I mentioned both. This is why I know you two are meant for one another. I made one analogy and got both of y'all. That's why I know you two are meant for one another here. This is I didn't even have to try. Y'all just walked into my trap. This is tremendous. This is a great, So
it's almost like someone said her name 3 times and she just appeared.
I didn't have to do the Beetlejuice thing. They just, I dug the hole and they fell in. It was fine. It wasn't a problem. It's all good. So what you gonna do?
When we do the haunted cave, and I know there's I'm in a character, but like when you see those people come in, and my other coworker who's one of the demons, he goes like, oh look, here come all the sad kids, and I'm like, hey. You leave the sad kids alone. I break character level like, hey, I was one of them. You leave it alone. I'm dressed in all black and fucking I'm sitting here swooping my hair like I'm a South Park character, like the goth kids from South Park.
Smoking your clove cigarettes over there out by the dumpster. Is that what y'all are doing? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, we're so edgy.
One of the great things about the storytelling, though, that I want to point out real quick before we move on to the next thing is DC. One of the things I've liked about DC more than Marvel is they embrace the darker, gritty side of comic book characters. And that's one of the things I really liked DCEU is they were like, we're not going to be light and fluffy, a lot of bright colors. We're going to be dark. We're going to Batman's going to kill people. The whole do I have to kill zombies? They've embraced that. This movie actually did that quite a bit, especially with the scene where Lois dies. I was just like, that was a very. I was watching the scene and it didn't occur to me. I'm not going to lie, I hadn't watched this movie for probably about a decade or more. I watched this movie on the regular, and then just for the last several years I haven't. But I was watching the scene and I'm like, that's a pretty terrifying. I mean, being buried alive is kind of terrifying for anybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, watching her. The way they drug that scene out where her car's falling into that crevice that's created by this earthquake and all that, I was like, I'm looking at that now and I'm like, I didn't realize when I was a kid watching this movie just how terrifying that scene kind of can be. And
Yeah.
so one of the things I really like about it is even back then, I think DC was kind of before the competition with Marvel about whatever. I mean, there was no MCU at the time, obviously, but I mean, even then they were kind of embracing the darker, edgier,
There's
sadder
consequences to this stuff.
They were kind of like leaning into the darkness, at least in spots. That's one of the things I think was really, really has been great about DC over Marvel. I mean, are you guys getting what I'm saying? Do you guys agree with me at all?
Oh yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. DC's always been Detective Comics, they always had the darker edge, the darker side to them. You had Stan Lee and Jack Kirby over there doing the more kiddie version of a lot of. They didn't really get darker till a little bit later on, but I mean, hell, DC had was it Green Arrow's sidekick in the comics that was shooting heroin or it was heroin or some drug that he was shooting up. DC dealt with darker things. I mean, hell, I think they killed Joker in his first comic appearance, and then obviously they brought him back.
Yeah, he was supposed to die in the first appearance.
Yeah, I think it's been forever since I've read Detective Comics 27 or whatever it is. But Detective Comics 1 and Action Comics 27 for Superman, right?
Yeah,
I think it's one of those. Either way, DC's always been the darker. DC's always been the darker edge, where Marvel was bright, colorful, and kiddie. Look at the original Batman. The guy carried a gun and he was killing people. This was just the way that it is. And, not everything has to be kid friendly where your villain really doesn't matter. Look at the problem with Marvel. None of their villains really matter at the end of it. And most of them die by the end of the film because they're just bland. DC's got the better villains, whereas Marvel does not, because they have that darker edge. Look at Man of Steel, where I think you brought up a minute ago, Frank, where, that family's over in the corner of the room in the train station. It's funny enough, you have Superman as a train rail right now. And, Superman screaming, no, and I will kill, I'll do it. I'll kill him, whatever Michael Shannon says. And he has to snap Zod's neck. He didn't want to do that. And of course, everybody got their vagina hurt because, Superman killed somebody, blah, blah, blah. Well, what are you going to do? You've got a psychopath about to murder a family. You're not going to kill the bad guy? Just saying. That speaks a lot about these people's personality to me, that you're not willing to do what's necessary when the time comes.
Yeah.
And Superman didn't want to do it. Yeah. He had to. For the good of the many, right? But
it's like if you force you have someone who is literally a god, and you had to force this guy's hand to do something he didn't want to have to end up doing in the end. And it's not like he just did it. It was like, oh, that sucked and flew off. He has that that scream, and you can tell he's about on the verge of tears. I'm like, if you can do that to someone who is basically an impenetrable god, like, holy shit, you still got to him, like, because again, he had that moral growing up from Ma and Pa Kent, that they taught him the right way, and it's like, damn, he had to have his hand forced to snap this dude's neck, because otherwise he's not going to stop. And that's the thing, you want to push your hero to have that kind of moment. Like, Jesus Christ. Also, it's 27. It's Detective 27 was Batman.
Detective 27 and Action Comics 1. Okay,
number 1.
I knew it was those numbers, but I couldn't remember how the breakdown was. Forgive me, fellow comic book nerds, but a lot of information I'm trying to put out at once. So
it was.
I had a new it's all good.
I don't know where it went. I had the original Superman one here too because it was free, but I was scrolling through about like 30 issues of Walking Dead trying to find it, but like.
Well, just look at this film, Superman 78, though. Look at how ruthless Lex Luthor is in this movie. That's what this was the brilliancy of Gene Hackman. He's trying to kill as many people as possible. He makes no bones about it. That's what makes it a good villain, is the best one that, like I said earlier, believes they're the hero of their own story, but as well as that, they enjoy it. Why do we celebrate Heath Ledger's Joker so much? He liked what he was doing. That character believed in it. It wasn't just because he died. Even if Heath Ledger had lived, I don't think the idolizing of that character would be any less. But, Gene Hackman's Luthor in this movie, he wasn't bald for most of it. Yeah, that's whatever. But the dude's just a badass in this movie, and you believe him when he's that crime boss. You know what I mean?
I would say the best way to describe that would be the line from Batman Begins. Why did we fall, Master Wayne? So we can learn to pick ourselves up again.
Right.
You gotta have your hero go through something.
You have this ruthless guy that just basically wants to be warlord leader going up against a farm boy from Kansas. Yeah, he's got superpowers, but he never had plans to do anything with them. He never planned to be Superman.
Right.
That's what makes it so interesting. But, it is what it is. Hold it out for a minute, guys. I'll be right back.
All right. But that gives us a good opportunity to move on to the last real topic of today is, look, this is kind of the $1 million question, especially since we got not just Brandon Routh as Superman, but eventually Henry Cavill. Where does Christopher Reeve's performance rank among the other Superman actors? I mean, I'm surprised at how few people will say that Christopher Reeves is one of their favorite, but I mean, he's up there for most people. I'll go to you first, Jeremy. You've seen all the iterations of Superman, everybody who's played him, George Reeves, all the way up. Where does he rank for you? Is he in your top three? And what are your top three?
Yeah, because I should have known that question was coming because I asked it in the comments too. Like, of everyone who's played an on-screen Superman, like, where does this all rank? Yeah, thank you for putting it back in there. I don't. Yeah, see, he's also saying like animated. I'm like, because I would say even like the stuff in the like Justice League animated show, like that's a very good Superman, like to me, because I grew up with it too. Yeah, I would also say George Reeves as well, but like Christopher Reeve, I would say for sure, and even just giving him the nostalgia bone that I'll throw him, like, yeah, he's definitely in the top three. And if I had to, oh boy. Because, see, I even gave Brandon Routh some credit because I think he was supposed to be a continuation of Christopher Reeve's version of Superman, right? Because he, like, leaves, and that's why Superman returns.
Yeah, Brandon Routh, technically that was a sequel to the Christopher Reeve Superman.
Yeah. So I'm like, I appreciate that. Because I remember seeing it, and I thought, oh, this is cool. It's Superman. Woo. I don't think at the time I realized that. I think it was just like, woo, Superman. Yeah. And... what's the guy's name? Tom Welling did him in Smallville.
Tom Welling, yeah.
He's actually at the next Comic-Con I'm going to. That's interesting. Of course, my first thought is True Brother Dozen, not Superman. Sorry, man. Jesus.
I'm looking at it, and for those of you who have seen me on Derailed over the years, know that I hate the website Ranker. I think it's terrible. I think only 12-year-olds have ever voted on that shit. But I mean, just for a point of reference, I think it's interesting who's at number one. I'm looking at Ranker. They've got the number one Superman listed as Christopher Reeve. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. I'm between.
I don't want to go with easy. Yeah, I don't.
I go back and forth between him and Henry Cavill, to be honest. Number two is Henry Cavill. The top two, whatever. Both those are fine. They have number three for some reason is Tyler Hoechlin, the one who does it on the CW shows.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't know. He fits the suit well. That's the best I can say about it. I didn't watch the Superman and Lois TV show that they did with him, but I saw him on like Arrow and the Flash and stuff, and I'm like, there's not really anything about him as the character that blows me away. He's not a bad actor, not a bad person, I'm sure, but him in the suit doesn't really do it for me. Number four is Tom Welling. I can see that. Number five, like you guys were talking about the animated stuff, they got Tim Daly who did it in Last Son of Krypton, Brainiac Attacks, all the animated stuff. After that, they have Brandon Routh who did it for just technically, I guess he did it for 2 movies. He had that weird cameo as Clark Kent in Batwoman, The Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2 in the CW crossover. And then, of course, Superman Returns in 2006. Which, by the way, say what you want about Kevin Spacey. He was a really good Lex Luthor. I wish you could have gotten more of him.
Look, I was typing. I was like, when I said I appreciate Brandon Routh trying to be the continuation of Christopher Reeve, and I was like, and how awesome was it that I'm going to back up before I start saying shit like that. In hindsight, I was like, man, Kevin Spacey makes a good villain, doesn't he? Damn. Because I was thinking like Gene Hackman and Kevin Spacey. I'm like, you know what, Brandon Routh and Chris Reeves. It still feels like they're the continuation of those same characters they were being portrayed in the '78 movie. But I didn't want to get us canceled for I tried to say something about Kevin Spacey, so we'll leave. We'll leave that over there.
Say what you want about his personal stuff. He was actually very, very good as Lex Luthor. Number 7 they have is George Reeves, who was in it for 5 different things. He actually also, next they have George Newbern at number 8. He did a lot of the animated stuff in the 2000s, including some video games and stuff like that. Then, for some reason, they have Dean Cain. I didn't like Lois and Clark to do Adventure of Superman in the 90s. I thought it was a bit too silly. There were some moments it had. I watched it fairly regularly, but it wasn't really my thing. Next, they have Danny Dark, who actually did the voice of Superman on the Super Friends. That's what I grew up watching.
Oh,
was the Super Friends.
Super Friends. Hell yeah.
Then they have Nolan North, who did a lot of stuff in the 2000s.
Well, he's been in like fucking everything, man.
Yeah.
Nolan North's got a list.
Then they've got Bud Collyer, who did it back in the 60s. It also says here that Collier was also the uncredited voice of Superman in many short cartoons from 1941 to 1943. Then it goes going back to the 50s again. It's got Kurt Allen, who did it in 1948 and 1950. Then Jason J. Lewis, who did it in the 2010s, did the voice in Justice League Action and Justice League Action shorts. Then Bo Weaver, who did it back in 1988 in the Superman stuff. John Newton, he was in Superboy, Superman Classic, and Bizarro Classic in the 2000s. Let's see, and then Yuri Lowenthal in the mid 2000s. Legion of Superheroes. Then let's see, Gerard Christopher in Superboy from 1989 to 1992. I had totally forgot that even existed. Totally forgot that existed. And then David Wilson, a TV movie called It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman. I never heard of that one either. Those are the 19 people that have played it and how they ranked. So that's
I only have to do 3. So Jesus.
Yeah, I'm just going through what Ranker said. But I'll put this in the comments so you guys can go read this yourself and you guys can vote on and all that. Website.
I would guess I would still.
I'll say this.
I would still say Chris is probably first. I would probably want to put. See, I'd say either the animated stuff, like the animated stuff from the 90s, 2000s, because I grew up on that too with like the animated Batman and Justice League from that era. Or George Reeves, because I mean, honestly, it's still that's something I can still watch and still. It's like, yeah, when you think who's Superman, it's like these two guys, like that's Superman to me. And because I want to be an asshole, I'm going to say Nicolas Cage for number 3. Still holding on, damn it.
Well,
one day we'll get Nicolas Cage fighting that big spider.
Right.
Get ready
get on it, Kevin Smith. You want to do it?
I know you do.
I knew when I did my rankings, I was going to be the Lex Luthor of this podcast because
just don't be the Kevin.
The
Spacey.
Highest I can put. The highest. No. I won't be a Kevin Spacey. No, never be a Kevin Spacey. That's not okay. That you don't do that.
Just don't do that. This is a life tip.
Yeah. No. I've got Christopher Reeve at 5. And I could have put Dean Cain over him because I think for what Lois and Clark was in the 90s, I really enjoyed his. But I've got at number 5 Christopher Reeve. Number 4, I've got Tyler Hoechlin. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's the Superman from the current Superman and Lois show that's on. I don't know if y'all have watched that or not. It's actually a pretty entertaining show, and he does a really good Superman. 3, I got Tim Daly. The animated Superman voice for all those years in the 90s, the Justice League cartoons and the whatever. 2 is Tom Welling, and it's not even close. He is so good. I mean, because we get to see so many versions of Superman all over the 10 years of Smallville. He was so good at it. But number 1 is obviously Henry Cavill. He shows the funny, goofy side while he's the serious Superman. And I like that complexity. With Christopher Reeve, he didn't do it quite as well, in my opinion. But I can't put Christopher Reeve any higher than 5. I think a lot of people put him higher because, like I said, people looking through nostalgia, rose-colored glasses. And it's the same people that say Halloween 1978 is the greatest interpretation of Michael, and they don't look at any other versions because that would just be against the rules to have your own opinion, and that I don't like that idea. But I think Henry Cavill's the man. I think it's a shame what DC and Warner Brothers did to him. Not DC, but Warner Brothers more specifically. But I would have loved to see Man of Steel 2 and whatever going forward, but Henry Cavill to me will forever be my Superman. And I've seen all of these Superman, but I'm Cavill all the way. It's not even close.
I could have gone a little deeper and got weird and been like, nah, Eminem, because it was a song called Superman, but also you dressed up like Robin for a different video, so whatever.
Well, I was going to make a 3 Doors Down joke, if I go crazy, would you still call me Superman? But, it is what it is, so.
It was different. It was different timelines. He's a variant of Superman and one, and a variant of Robin.
He probably is, man. I don't even.
But to me, it's like I said, I the nostalgia in me, the one I grew up watching Christopher Reeve. So I mean, I kind of put him number 1 in my heart. But I mean, just like realistically, I bounce back and forth between him and Henry Cavill as number 1 and 1A. Number 3, honestly, I was not a huge fan of Smallville. My dad and my brother watched it pretty religiously when it was on.
I love that show. I watched all 10 years of it.
I've caught bits of it here and there, and I like Tom Welling. I think the little bit that I've watched, I think he carries himself like Clark Kent. One of the things I've always found kind of interesting about Smallville is Superman was not the star of that show. Clark Kent was. That was a Clark Kent-driven show. Yeah. It wasn't even about the dual identities.
He didn't become Superman until the last episode.
Yeah, it was all about Clark, which I thought was an interesting way of approaching it all. And I like Tom Welling. But, man, the drop-off from Tom Welling to anybody else that I could be on the list is just massive. I can't – I mean, Brandon Ruth was amusing, but, again, he probably wasn't even the best. He
didn't even throw a punch in his own Superman movie. He should not count.
I've seen.
Come on, dude.
I've seen the George Reeves stuff, and I like it, but I don't think it's as good. The animated stuff, I didn't really like the New Adventures of Superman in the 90s with Dean Cain either. I wasn't a big fan of that show. The animated stuff, it's all different. It's all good. So you go back in the 40s and 50s, some of this stuff, I've only seen bits and pieces of it. So, I mean, so for me, it's like Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill, like 1 and 1A. They flip back and forth constantly. And then it's Tom Welling. And then from then on out, it's just like nobody else matters. The one you were talking about, Tex and the CW stuff, the guy that plays Tyler Hoechlin.
Hoechlin. Yeah, that's what it is.
I've watched a little bit of Superman and Lois, and I'm like, I can't get into this. I just couldn't do it.
Really?
Hold on. Did Christopher Reeve even throw a punch in this movie either? Wait a minute now, Tex. I don't think he punched.
Did he not?
In 78?
Wait a minute.
No, he actually kind of doesn't, I don't think.
I'm like, I don't think he actually
punched. The second one he certainly does, because he goes at it with the other 3, but
it's Superman 2. Him and Zod go crazy. Holy crap, I didn't even pick that up the other day. Oh my God.
I was like, no, wait a minute. I don't think he does either. So
wow. Okay. That
because
I'm gonna have to take away. I'm gonna have to take away points from 78. Then if I'm doing it from returns, I have to be fair then.
All right.
Just saying. I mean,
I had to be the wet blanket there, and also yes, Rachel. Text me.
No, you're.
Yeah.
I got you covered, Rachel. We're good. I picked up that ball.
Oh yeah, you at least made me think about that for a second. I was like, no, like he'll save the helicopter. He'll grab the the goons and be like, here you go.
Well, okay. Not to mention Superman and Superman Returns. He's nothing but a straight up voyeur, just creepo, watching people sleep through the walls in their house. He cucked out Cyclops.
Or are you talking about Kevin Spacey?
Superman.
Oh
no, Superman. Superman cucked out Cyclops in Superman Returns. Because Cyclops' kid ain't his kid, so Lois Lane is a whole bag cheating whore with Superman's kid. So just saying, I mean, Superman Returns.
She had a thing.
Oh, I'm just saying.
I mean, hey, he stole the girl. So
I'm just saying, Superman Returns. When you go back and was it Harold or Kumar that was in that movie? I can't remember which one it was, but one of them is one of Lex Luthor's goons in that movie.
Oh yeah,
that was Cal Penn. I don't know.
I think it's. I can't remember. I don't remember who was who, but yeah. No, Superman Returns. I think that qualifies as one of those Ghostbuster 2016 movies that we just need to collectively forget about because I don't know, but
I think maybe the thing with the 78 movies, I'm like, well, yeah, he kind of this is the first outing. He did just become Superman again. He is trying to be the straight guy. I'm like, that has powers. Like, he's trying to be a straight shooter. I don't think even if he hadn't gotten kryptonite put around his neck that he would have taken a swung at Lex Luthor. So,
well,
to be fair, I think he's still trying to be the good guy.
And therein lies the problem with Superman. The best Superman properties are when there's a high-powered villain. Because if he's just fighting Lex Luthor, it can be over in 2 seconds. He can fly up to him, rip his head off, movie's over. But of course, he's the all shucks guy from Kansas. He's not going to do that. If you've got Superman going against Doomsday or, Mongol, Brainiac, Parallax, Metallo, any of these awesome Superman, any of these awesome Superman villains, Superman is, and this is another reason why Superman hasn't really had a really good video game, because, you have to depower him in order to have a challenge, because otherwise he can do anything besides having a green rock be within his presence. So, this is why these are the problems that the Superman character has, but, if there's nobody for him to fight, it's not as good to me.
Well, yeah, because you don't have the otherworldly stuff coming in just yet. You don't have the stuff like Zod. You don't have Darkseid. You don't have Steppenwolf. You don't even have stuff like that, like the Celestial stuff coming in. Like, you have a grounded dude who's just a criminal mastermind. You could just flick his pinky and take his head off his shoulders. Like, yeah, dude, get out of here. Like, I understand that, I guess. That's why though they have powered up Lex Luthor before. They give him like that big mech suit or some shit. Like, you got
they give him the power suit.
You got to have something to then build up this Lex Luthor character, who again is a pretty quintessential villain to Superman. Well, so you got to have and I will fight anyone who complains that you gave Batman a fucking suit, because of course he did.
Not one of you fuckers complained when Tony Stark did it.
Right. Well, go back to the first Injustice video game. It's a DC fighting game where Superman goes evil. So the only way Batman and his allies can fight him is basically by taking this magic Kryptonian pill that gives them the strength of Superman. So then you can go forth and fight Superman, because otherwise he's just going to kill you. This is the problem with the Superman character. You know what I mean?
A weakness. Again, it just wouldn't be fair. Didn't Bruce Wayne at one point actually outsource to, I think, Green Arrow, to go get some kryptonite, and he put it on an arrow and just shot Superman?
That's in the Dark Knight. That's in my favorite comic book story, The Dark Knight Returns. Because you have Green Arrow with one arm, and Bruce goes to fight him in Crime Alley or whatever, and Green Arrow is going to shoot him because the whole no capes rule that got Green Arrow arrested, or no capes, no vigilantes. And, he was going to shoot him with the kryptonite arrow. That was that whole thing. That's why Batman v Superman, Batman breaks into Lex Luthor's facility to steal that kryptonite that they found in the Atlantic Ocean or whatever. So.
I got me and this guy Peter going off Eminem over here. I see you. I appreciate this banter. Hey, you know what? That's the messed up thing about Fortnite is that we got Eminem as Robin before we actually got a Robin skin in Fortnite. We have Batman, but I'm like, my friend played as Batman. I'm like, I have to do it. I have to be Eminem because it's just too damn funny. And then, of course, as soon as I switched the skin, I'm like, this looks like a job for me. Of course, I had to do it. Be your Superman.
Let's see. Let's do some trivia now. Yeah, go down the comments below. Let us know what you guys think. Who is your favorite Superman? Give us your top three if you have them. Like I said, for me, it's like those three, and then it's a big drop off from anybody else. But get into a little bit of trivia now. Christopher Reeves had to do a little bit of working out to become Superman. To obtain the musculature to play Superman, Christopher Reeves underwent a bodybuilding regimen supervised by none other than David Prowse, the man who played Darth Vader. In the original
Darth Vader, son. Hell yeah!
Wow, I didn't know that.
Damn. Darth Vader trained Superman. That's kind of badass.
Hey,
damn right.
And how fitting that Darth Vader's son then becomes Joker. We can create a whole new comic universe over here where we can tie in a bunch of really cool stuff. You know, Luke Skywalker has one bad day and then he becomes Joker or something like that. We can make this work here. Like, I can put this story together.
You're telling me Darth Vader rolled up in the Death Star to Krypton? Like, all right, hold on. Hear me out, dude.
Oh my God.
You want to rule this galaxy?
The Death Star was the reason Krypton exploded. Oh, this is just too easy.
Oh,
we're so making this.
Wait a minute.
We are so writing the fan fiction. We are doing this.
That's why they made that joke that Alderaan was an inside job. Like, it was also a peaceful planet. Wait, maybe it wasn't Alderaan. Maybe that was actually Krypton and they covered it up.
Maybe.
So you're also telling me, though, by that logic, that Princess Leia is a Kryptonian. So that's kind of awesome.
She did fly in space.
Oh, shit. She
Just
did.
saying.
Oh, no.
She did fly in space.
She did her Mary Poppins thing in space.
She had her. Is it the Force? Is it superpower? I don't know. Oh, this is way too fucking easy.
Wow.
It just occurred to me I should.
We're not even really trying.
No, we're not.
We're not even really trying. That's what's so sad.
I know.
I should have a picture of the teenage Superman for this one, but I didn't think to grab one. To achieve the shot of young Clark Kent kicking a football into orbit, an air cannon was actually placed underground, and the football was fired from it.
That's awesome.
Really?
I actually was wondering that. I'm like, they do that practically? How? And I'm like, oh, I didn't think of it. Yeah, that's
so they made a potato gun out of PVC and hooked it up to a air condenser or a air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they basically put a big mortar in the ground, mortar launcher in the ground, and said, "All right, kick it." Boom. You know,
I read that piece of trivia as I was watching the movie, and I was coming up to that part, so I saw it, and you could tell because of the way they edited, the way they cut it. There's also this big poof of kind of dirt and air that comes up behind it. So now that I know, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I can kind of tell, but I'm just like in the moment.
Yeah, they made a potato gun.
That's pretty cool how they did that.
Wait, maybe that's what destroyed Alderaan. Like, maybe it was this football traveling Mach 7 that he kicked into fucking Alderaan. They were like, wait, what happened?
In revenge for killing Krypton and all of his family, Superman punts a football at Alderaan and says, "Screw you, Leia." Grr.
Touchdown.
Oh, this is great. Oh, we even got sports ball in this. I am so into this. I am so happy. This is great.
You're welcome.
Well, maybe he can be the kicker for the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe you guys win a playoff game.
I know. We got a good kicker. Brandon Aubrey's money, dude. We just need a head coach, a new quarterback, a defensive coordinator. Basically, everything else except for the kicker is good. So we just need to clean house. But that's beside the point.
Let's see. Jeremy, you make jokes all you want about Clark Kent and his glasses. But there's actually another big difference between Clark Kent and Superman. Clark Kent and Superman both part their hair on opposite sides.
I knew that. Yeah, I'm like, didn't they parted it backwards in one and the other way in the other? That is funny. Yeah. Well, I love the
hair part.
Yeah, that's what makes it different. I love that little. Someone made like a comic of like a Batman standing behind Superman. He's like, "Hey, Clark, look, who am I?" He puts the glasses on. He's like, "Can't tell who I am now, can I?" It's like everyone in Metropolis is stupid. And I'm like, right. Although they tried to prove it with like they said they took like Henry Cavill and they let him walk down like fucking some street in New York City with and without the glasses, and it actually was effective. I'm like, it was New York City. I don't think anyone fucking cared or even really noticed. So it's not really a valid. Well, if I saw Henry Cavill on the street with glasses or not, I'd be like, oh my God, it's Superman. So.
Well, even if you saw Henry Cavill in Superman form, he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger on his best day. He's even as Clark Kent, you're going to see this guy and be like, "Holy crap! Are you like Hulk Hogan? What's going on over here?"
It's Mr. Universe.
Yeah, are you? Yes, that's what I'm saying. I can buy the whole. Not everybody looks at Clark Kent and sees Superman because, like you just said, how many people live in Metropolis, which is a knockoff New York City. But people. I've always thought they should have at least had a scene where Lois says, you look like Superman. And, that way you can leave it to interpretation. Does she know? Does she not know? Because it really discredits his character as just the smartest, most on top of it reporter. If the guy sitting across from her, if she doesn't even have an idea, that to me always, kind of.
He even kind of, I mean, they always do like the joke. They did it in Batman Begins where, he says that line and then she's like, wait a minute, Bruce, like, what the hell? So he says, like, she's like, well, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm a friend. And then, like, when Clark leaves that note on her desk, it's like, do you want to have dinner tonight from a friend? And then, like, he shows up as Superman, but then, like, 3 seconds later, of course, he comes around the door and he's Clark. I don't know how she didn't. I know she's still in a daze from having her little flight with Superman, but she didn't quite put that together that Clark still showed up too. So, like, I know she figures out, like, wait a minute, they're not in the same room. Well,
you
figure that out then, like.
The world of DC is just lucky that there is a rash of white men with square jaws and brown to black hair, because like Batman, Superman, all of the male Robins, most of the other DC heroes in that world fit that archetype. There was one, was it Batman, Superman, Public Enemies they did it in Batman, Superman, Public Enemies, and then they did it in Batman the Animated Series where Batman and Superman swapped costumes. But because they looked so similar and Superman could manipulate his vocal cords, even when Superman was in Batman's costume, it still appeared as he was the same person. But yeah, it's just, it's been done and they've played with it. But I always thought they keep everybody else dumb. But Lois should know even if she doesn't say so. Like, just like a wink and a nod, like, she knows kind of thing.
Let's see. Did you know initially that Gene Hackman refused to cut off his mustache to play Lex Luthor? Before Richard Donner and Hackman actually met face-to-face, Donner proposed to Hackman that if he would cut off his mustache for this role, that Donner would cut off his mustache as well, to which Hackman agreed. It turned out later that Donner did not have a mustache at all, and he wore a fake mustache that he would peel off at the last moment after meeting Hackman for the first time.
That's fucked.
That's a Lex Luthor move right there.
I was about
to say. That's a Luthor move.
Solidarity and mustache bros, but nope, you ruined it. Wow. That's messed up, man.
That is pretty
That's funny, hilarious.
He actually, I don't know if I have it in here or not, he actually didn't want to shave his head either.
Well, yeah, that's kind of. At least they gave him the stuff to wear, and he only had it for like that shot there at the end where he finally reveals, like, yeah, he's like to the.
Let's see. Yeah, they paid.
He actually didn't shave his head for that scene either. He actually wore a ball skin cap. Okay. Because I guess they wanted him to shave his head, and it kind of came along with the whole shaving the mustache thing. But Hackman was like, I will not shave my head at all. So what happens is you see the wigs, like you see him over the course of the movie, he's always got a different wig on or a different hairstyle going on. And you actually see the one spot where Ned Beatty's kind of cleaning up the evil lair, that he finds the one wig or hairpiece laying in the bed and scares him at first. That stuff was put in there to allude to the fact that he was actually bald. But even though you actually see him with hair because Hackman didn't want to shave his head. And they did this at the end as kind of like almost just a little Easter egg.
But yeah, because you see him swimming in the pool and he's got like the swimming cap on. And you see Ned Beatty pick up the wig and he kind of looks at it and you realize, oh, wait, no, he's not got hair. Oh, he's bald, So, yeah, it's kind of a nice alluding to the iconic look of Lex Luthor.
Let's see. Christopher Reeves actually worked out so much during the making of this film that the traveling matte shots taken of him at the beginning of the shoot did not match the later shots, and they all had to be retaken.
Oh, no. Well, hey, you got that.
Hey, he didn't need the padding in the suit to look like Superman. That's credit I will give to him. He had the gym days in to wear the suit. You go back and look at George Reeves as Superman. He was like he was like an in-shape fat guy kind of Superman. He very much a different look, especially when you look at a Christopher Reeve. You know what I mean? Yeah, he was like he was bigger. He was just toned like he did some sit-ups right before he shot or something.
Kind of even just like. like with Adam West with the Batman suit. I'm like, yeah, he's obviously bulked and he's muscled, but
yeah.
As he so wonderfully said in Big Bang Theory, he's like, that was all 100% grade A West. I'm like, I love this man. Thank you.
But if you pay close attention,
fake muscles in their costume. When I walked
in some of those episodes of Batman, the tights come up a little bit higher because maybe he had some extra pasta for lunch that day. So you can kind of tell they're playing with the wardrobe a little bit. You have to go back and watch all of them to find that, but it's all.
Well,
good,
that's what I'm saying. I bought all that stuff for Batman. I was working my way through the 40s serials, and I'm like, first of all, wow,
no capes. There you go. Edna mode. No capes. There you go. I dig it.
Well, I think Superman and Batman might have a few things to say about that, but yeah, just
even though Superman don't need it, but
nah.
Right.
Yeah, the cape is purely aesthetic.
It's just to show off.
Yeah, it's just to show off. Let's see. Did you know that Marlon Brando was actually paid $3.7 million plus a percentage of the gross for 12 days of shooting? The payment also covered the sequel, which was shot at the same time. Although Brando did not appear in the sequel because he had sued Ilya Salkind, claiming Salkind had not paid him his percentage of the profits. He ultimately received about $14 million for 10 minutes of screen time, and the footage that was shot for the sequel was eventually used in Superman Returns in 2006.
So you're saying they offered him a deal he couldn't refuse?
You come into my movie on the day it is to debut.
On the day of his planet dying, on the day of his planet dying, you come in here with it.
I gotta put my jaw a little bit. I can't do the damn voice. Like I can't do it.
There may come a day, and a day may never come, when I make a Superman movie that I'm actually in.
Whatever. That's a good segue into my. I'm gonna say some shit about Brando here.
Uh-oh. Watch out! You might get whacked here, so be careful of what you say.
I wake up with a horse head in the bed. I totally understand.
Well, hang on. Is it okay to make jokes about horses considering what happened to old Christopher Reeve boy? The whole kind of thing he had to deal with later on. Just saying, you might want to think about that one.
Look, man, we left Kevin Spacey back there too. Okay, I'm just trying not to.
Christopher Reeve might not like your horse joke, because his.
Well, that's good because I'm not talking about him. Thankfully, I'm talking about his damn pretentious shit of a dad. Anyway,
his old man. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, also, okay, I'm gonna be the most boring politician answer to this whole thing. I am not doubting Brando as an actor, as somebody who's got. We talked about gravitas in this movie. I mean, at this point, The Godfather? I think even part 2 had already been out, right? So you got.
Maybe I'm not sure about the years.
First one was 74 or something, right? That was already early. Because 3 was not till 1990 or some wild shit like that. So, I think it might have been 77, 76. I don't know when part 2 came out. Yeah, look, I tell your friend clicking. Get that for me. So I'm not doubting that. Yeah, this is this is an iconic guy, iconic actor. Again, it's The Godfather, right? However, it's it's almost like people have that Hollywood thing of oh, you're so great, you're so great. You know how they talk to each other. I mean, I don't know because I don't live there, but it's oh yeah, this guy's so great, he's amazing. I'm right, but I kind of feel like Brando has this weird pretentiousness about him that I'm I don't know why you think you have the gall to do shit like that when you can't even memorize one damn paragraph of a script. And it was written on the fucking baby's diaper in the movie. You really couldn't. Look, when I said shit the bed, I was going there. There's my connection. When he's sending Kal-El, the little baby, off to go to Earth, on the damn tag of the diaper is the whole little few lines of speech that he had to fucking say. And he's sitting there reading it off the damn diaper of the baby. I'm dude, you can't just. And if you've seen any behind the scenes stills of The Godfather, you got what's his Robert Duvall in costume, he's in character standing there, but he's got the damn sandwich board over his fucking shoulders with the lines for Brando to read. I'm okay, I know, but like, man, isn't part of it you kind of? I don't know. It just seems weird that I'm like, the effort doesn't seem like it's really there for someone who's built up to the level that he is. I don't know.
I think it's there because he was the Godfather. I mean, I'm
just saying, I think people need to bring that into account when you talk about someone at that level. I'm like, yeah, he's amazing. I'm not going to deny it. But I don't think it's as amazing as you might think it is, because I'm like, and hide it in better ways or something. I don't know. Maybe there's papers on the desk and in The Godfather, and he's got the shit right there. I don't know. But it's kind of.
There's way. I think he's known for the gravitas of who he is, not his acting skill. I think would be a fair way to put it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, like he was only in the movie for so long, and I was thinking back like to I know we're gonna delve into this territory, and I'm sorry everybody, but we're talking about with Batman Forever, right? Which is no, it's Batman and Robin. Sorry, with
Val Kilmer.
No, sorry, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Schwarzenegger
had Clooney.
Yes. So if anyone, and it's really interesting to learn the dichotomy of this when you look into it when they do credits, because this movie opens up with the credits first. Who is the first name billed in the credits of this movie? It's Marlon Brando.
Brando, yeah.
Really? Again, the ego that you have to put your name first above the guy who is playing Superman for being in the movie for 10 minutes, and I'm like, why though, man? I don't know. Like
that actually wasn't his decision.
Well, because I'm like, I understand it because it opens up with Brando first. Like when they're on Krypton, I'm like, oh, I can understand. That's in your head, like, oh yeah, Marlon Brando's in this, and he's the first actor sending it off. But I'm like, Schwarzenegger did that shit too. He put his name over freaking George Clooney's in Batman. I'm like, that's fucked up. Why
didn't they have Schwarzenegger's name over the top of Predator on the poster as well? Like in really big letters? I think it was there too. Right?
Yeah.
The top, yeah. Well, I believe it was.
It's strange in the Batman situation you bring up. That's really strange because it's not like Clooney was a young up-and-coming actor who hadn't done anything. I mean, Clooney's career was still pretty early, but he was already a big name. He'd already been in a couple of movies but like that. And so was Schwarzenegger.
He was shooting ER during the day while he did Batman at night.
The reason why Brando and
was it a marketing thing?
The reason why Brando and Hackman got top billing before he was the Superman name was because at that time they were worried that Christopher Reeve not being a big name. I think he had done some like soap opera work and some stuff like that. Not being a big name, they were like, we don't really want this unheard of person at the time to be the first name. We want to have Brando, Hackman, because those guys were already big stars. Then they say Superman, they're like with Christopher Reeve. And then,
I know you want to sell your movie, but
big thing, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, Christopher Reeve is Superman, and that kind of changed the marketing. So that's why they did that. It wasn't because the way I read it, it's not that Brando demanded anything. That was a marketing decision made by the production company.
Well, it's kind of like the situation of how, anytime Rob Zombie does a film, it's always Rob Zombie's fill in the title here. Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez do the same thing. A lot of these, there's a lot of guys that they sell off the name. Go back to the Batman and Robin situation. Yeah, Clooney was famous for, ER. He would shoot ER during the day and Batman at nighttime. But Schwarzenegger had been an A-list movie star. You also have to remember, movie star was here, TV star was like down here in those times. It's not like it is now. So if you see Schwarzenegger, that's going to sell more than Clooney because Schwarzenegger was the Terminator. He was Dutch in The Predator, Conan. He was all of these things. I think that's why he got billing over him. But Brando over Reeves, I could see it, but it's just
he's got the ego for it that I'm like, I could have believed that he did that, but if he didn't, I can understand from a marketing standpoint. That's probably what happened.
I think it's a marketing gimmick, not an ego there. If I had to guess, but I obviously wasn't there.
It is there, but like in that case, I'll give some points back to him. But I'm like, quit reading the fucking script out the baby's diaper, okay, man? You weirdo. Damn it! It was like a few lines.
To be fair,
the only thing I could understand is like if you're in the moment, you want to like be just absorb yourself into the scene and do it, and you read it there and you can kind of play off of it, fine, because that's a lot to also pile on top of just having to remember what the hell you have to say and at what time. And I know I always try not to be so pretentious that like I'm an actor too. I'm a different kind of actor, but like I have a whole speech memorized too. But like I'm just saying, in my act, I'm like it's there and it's part of me, and I've said it about 300 million times a night, so I know what it is.
It only takes one good role. For all these actors, all you need is one big role and you'll eat for the rest of your life. Look at how many of these celebrities go to cons. You know, Kevin Smith and what's his face, Jason Mewes or whatever. Jay and Silent Bob. They still make money off of that one role that they've played 15 times. Marlon Brando, he nailed it in Godfather. He hit it big with Godfather. If he never did anything again, he didn't have to. So that's why I think a bit of the ego comes with that. But I mean, and I'm not even a real God. I don't even like mafia movies, but I can respect how big his name was being attached to that role. So you know, it is what it is.
You're about to say you don't like the Godfather, and I was like, I'm going to book a flight to Texas tomorrow.
I don't really care. It's a fine film, but I'll be real honest with you, I probably haven't seen Godfather in 20 years, and I'm not in a rush to see it again. I really don't care.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Fair. I've seen it once. I feel like, okay, I'm not a mafia guy. I don't really care. I have checked that off of my movie list as a good movie, fan, but, it is what it is.
All right, fine.
Let's move on to trivia now.
I was like, well, fine. You know what? It's not personal. It's just business.
Let's see.
Nothing personal, Jack. It's just business.
Did you know that Steven Spielberg was actually offered a chance to direct this film? Producers balked at the salary that he asked for. They decided to see how Jaws, which came out in 1975, which he had just completed, did at the box office.
Yeah.
That movie was a huge success, and Spielberg went on to other projects. The year that this movie came out, he ended up directing Close Encounters of the Third Kind, another movie that we're going to get to eventually. And the year after, he directed 1941, both of which were beat by Superman at the box office. So it looks like Richard Donner won this round. But Spielberg caught up later, and they would eventually work together on The Goonies in 1985.
It all came around.
Oh, they did, yeah. Yeah. It's fun to go back and see who was almost who and who did what with, obviously like the whole, did Steven Spielberg, was he really the director of Poltergeist, even though it was actually Tobe Hooper, but he never got credit for it. And that whole shenanigans with Spielberg back and forth. But I didn't know he was attached to Superman or offered Superman. That's interesting. And him saying a couple years ago that he wanted to direct a superhero film now. So maybe he could do Superman in the DCU, even though James Gunn's going to direct it. But
Yep, Nicolas Cage. What else is he doing right now? Come on.
I don't know. He's going through a bit of a renaissance of his career, man.
We need a
make it happen.
We need a 90s era where it looks like the 90s. Steven Spielberg directed Nicolas Cage Superman, where he fights that fucking spider finally. This is what we need to see. This is what we fucking need. So make it DC or Warner Brothers or WBD or whoever buys it next, because apparently they're bankrupt and have no money. But hey, it is what it is. So what are you going to do?
Let's see. The helicopter scene was actually intended to be shot on top of what was then called the Pan Am building in New York, until a real-life accident on the helipad of the Pan Am building killed several passengers, as well as a pedestrian on the ground who was hit by a falling helicopter blade on May 16th of 1977.
Really?
It was out of the soundstage. Yeah. I've read little articles about that in the past. I've never really done a deep dive into it. Yeah.
I think I paused the movie or I tapped it because I was watching it on Amazon. They always give you the little stuff on the side. And I tapped it to pause it for a second. At that point, it told me that it was like that they were going to do it on the Pan Am building, and there was a, when it becomes real life, it gets a little too real, and they're like, maybe we shouldn't do that. I'm like, that's
right.
That's a fair assessment. Yeah, maybe don't have Spider-Man string up a helicopter full of guys across the Twin Towers. Maybe don't do that. Hey.
You couldn't do it now. There's a big old empty space in the air, so you can do it now. It's free. So
some guy said he had his mom found that poster from when he was a kid back in the day, the movie poster where it's in his eye the Spider-Man mask, like with
Oh yeah.
I was like, save that, frame that poster. Holy crap! Because that's a piece of like that's cool. Like that you still have that.
Yeah.
Hold on to that.
It's so weird to go back and watch movies where the Twin Towers weren't destroyed yet. Like that. It's so crazy. Like, wait a minute, that completely changes the whole skyline. Like, completely changes it. But you know what you got to do.
Are you guys ready for some crazy casting could have beens?
Hell yes.
We'll start with this one. Sir Christopher Lee actually turned down the role of General Zod because he had just moved to Hollywood as a tax exile and did not want to return to England for filming. But he did end up playing a villain in another comic book movie. He played a villain in Captain America 2, Death Too Soon in 1979.
You know
I've never seen that.
I could have definitely seen that, but man, that would have been wild.
Could you imagine Christopher Lee saying "kneel before Zod" in that way that he talked?
Dude, I hear it in that bass voice.
Man.
Oh my God.
I'm going to find an AI program, go steal his voice from episode 2 Star Wars, and just so I can hear "kneel before Zod." I'm going to go do that. That needs to happen.
Please.
That could have been interesting. That could have been.
I'd be down for some Christopher Lloyd. Yeah.
I love the Terence Stamp, but I mean, God,
Christopher Lee?
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lloyd is
Lee, yeah.
that's Doc
I
Brown.
said Lloyd. Yeah, I know. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Squirrel
I want
moment,
Doc Brown as General Zod too, as much as the next
Doc
guy.
Brown as General Zod. Hey, DC has a multiverse. There's probably one out there. I mean, it could be a possibility.
Hey, you know what? He played a pretty menacing and pretty entertaining bad guy in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
there
Christopher
was
Lee.
something pretty intimidating and kind of freaky about him. So
yeah, Judge Doom.
Before you find out he's a tune.
Yeah, Judge Doom is kind of terrifying. I don't know how that was a kid's movie. How I watched the movie like, hey, Roger Rabbit, this is fun. Like, actually, now I think about it,
I would also agree with Dr. Nick in the comments. Scarface is better than Godfather. Fight me.
I agree. I watched.
I got your back, Dr. Nick. So
I watch Scarface more frequently than I do The Godfather. The Godfather is kind of like Schindler's List. I'm like, yeah, it's a big movie. You kind of want to watch it just to have an experience every once in a while.
Yeah.
Scarface is more entertaining. We're doing that movie too, by the way. Stay tuned.
We will.
Hell yeah.
I'm here for
Let's see it. You guys want to know who could have played Superman? This is where things get really insane.
I want to know.
Okay, so apparently Robert Redford, Clint Eastwood, and James Caan were all offered the role of Superman.
Oh.
And all three turned it down. Redford wanted too much money. Eastwood said he was too busy. And James Caan said, quote, Mario Puzo wrote an incredible script with Superman doing loop-de-loops and shit. Marlon called me and said, come on, man, do it. I need some laughs. I said, yeah, but you don't have to wear the cape. No way I'm getting into that silly suit.
Yeah, he wore that reflective bullshit is what he did, but like
I'd rather have a James Caan Lex Luthor than Superman.
Yeah, you said that. I was like, no, I could have seen him being a better Lex
Luthor. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big James Caan fan. I've always liked that guy. Clint Eastwood, I don't see him as Superman, even as younger. Now, if you want to go back to the 70s and give me a Clint Eastwood Batman, 70s Clint Eastwood is a better Batman than he is a Superman. Superman, you have to have a youthful kind of hopefulness. When you see Clint Eastwood, he doesn't really have that. He would be a better Batman.
Yeah, he flies down like, you feel lucky, punks.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine take the outlaw Josie Wales and take the cowboy hat off and put a cowl on it. Make that Batman. That's what I need to say.
Just give Batman a 44 Magnum. I don't even care. Go ahead.
Hey, why not? Hey, he blew people up with bombs in 89. What's a 44? Just saying. It's not that big of a deal. So give it to him.
Cal's mounted on his fucking Batmobile. Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got automatic rifles on the Batmobile, and so give him a 44 on the Bat belt. You know, if Adam West could have a bat shield and shark repellent, Clint Eastwood can have a 44 Magnum. By God, just saying. So it's all good.
Yeah, I don't know if I could have seen Eastwood playing Superman because at this point he'd already been.
I don't think so.
Dirty Harry in at least one or two films, at least one. So I don't know if it suits him. Redford maybe, but I like but at that point Redford was already a star, so I don't know if casting the big star in a superhero role has a history of not going very well. Clooney and Kilmer, so
yeah,
and even Marvel has shied away from going after the big stars. They've gotten some people that were kind of young and up and coming. It's like Robert Downey Jr. obviously has a career that goes back to the 80s, but he had not been a big in Hollywood for 10 years. And so when they cast him, people were kind of like, really? Isn't he kind of washed up? And then, of course, we got the amazing Tony Stark that we got. But it's like all the people that they cast for a lot of that stuff were relatively unknown until they hit the MCU, and then they became stars. So, except for, I don't know, I guess maybe Chris Evans was kind of on. He'd already been Johnny Blaze and stuff. He'd already done some stuff. But, I mean, for the most part, a lot of the people that the MCU ended up putting in the roles were kind of.
Johnny Blaze was Nicolas Cage, Ghost Rider.
Fucking Johnny. Fucking
Storm.
the Fantastic Four. Johnny Storm, yeah.
Johnny Storm, yeah. But
Six
and say that's a different Marvel.
I think Nick the Garbage Man makes a good point. What about Clint Eastwood as Frank Castle? You get a little Punisher in there. What about that?
That would have been pretty cool.
I'm down.
But again, there's a persona that had already been created with Eastwood about like Dirty Harry and some of the hardcore roles that he had played. So that would have worked out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about James Caan either. Even 77, 78 James Caan, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if he fits the role that way.
I don't know. James Caan, definitely not Superman, but just based off of those comments, I'm like, all right, you want to be the bad guy and talk shit about Superman for 90 minutes in our movie? That could be entertaining. I could get behind that.
I'm glad I know stuff now that I like. When I saw this is Mario Puzo. I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't he do The Godfather? Isn't Brando in this movie? Wasn't James Caan?
I'm so gonna go off of here once we get off of here and Photoshop Clint Eastwood's head onto Christopher Reeve Superman body just for the hell of it, just so I can get a visual of that.
I'll try to
That's
find
gonna
like
be fun.
from like 1978 at least. Try to at least get a.
No.
Just go to like.
I'm not gonna get
Don't
old.
do him now. He's like 100 years old. Don't do that. Jesus.
Just go to Chat GPT and just go to the AI and be like, show me a picture of what James Caan would look like as Superman. And be like, oh, okay, that'll be.
James Caan, Superman from 1978. Give it to me.
We were just digging on AI and how easy that shit was, and here we are like, oh no, we got to see what this looks like now.
Right.
Did you know that there is one actor that has been actually in 2 or 3 different generations of Superman movies? Aaron Smolinski, who played the infant Kal-El. I guess maybe this is probably a better picture. Who played the infant Kal-El right there on the screen. He actually would later appear uncredited in Superman 3 as the little boy waiting outside the photo booth while Clark Kent was changing into Superman.
Oh, that's cool.
He also played a communications officer in Man of Steel, which came out in 2013.
Well, son of a bitch. Oh. I mean, I'd be kidding. Hey, unlike the stupid fucker that keeps trying to do that with the Nirvana album every couple of years, he keeps trying to be like, but I need more money because I was the baby and never mind. Shut up. Shut up. No.
Right.
Now that
this is not the first time you've bitched about this.
You bitch about it every couple of years when he fucking needs money again for some fucking reason.
Well, we talked about
cocaine's a hell of a drug. He's got to feed that habit.
Forever ago too, we were shitting on this guy for suing Nirvana for all that bullshit.
I know, but I'm just saying, if I was that kid, it's like, I was baby Superman. Like, hell yeah, stay in that, go for it.
And how about some more casting could have beens? And these are a couple that might blow you away. Did you know that Paul Newman was actually offered the choice of playing either Superman, Lex Luthor, or Jor-El for a fee of $4 million? But Paul Newman was not interested in any of them.
Well, really?
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Paul Newman's, he's a busy man. He's out there making salad dressing and all of that delicious stuff that you can buy in the grocery store. So if he's going to walk away from that, he's going to be compensated for his time wisely. So, who can be Superman when you're making ranch dressing? I'm just saying. It's one of those things. So,
the Midwest.
Yeah, this one gets really weird too. There's a name on here, a couple names on here that are very interesting. But let's see, George Kennedy from the Naked Gun movies. He was the partner from the Airplane 77, stuff like that. George Kennedy, Jack Nicholson, and Gene Wilder were all considered for the role of Lex Luthor. Nicholson, who went on to play the Joker in Batman 1989, was considered to play Luthor in a Superman film project in the late 90s. It was ultimately scrapped.
Kind considering Willy Wonka is already kind of a villain, he's almost Lex Luthor anyways.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Of those three, the one that stuck out to me right there, I'm a Gene Wilder on this one.
Yeah, go back and watch the original Wonka with him in it. That dude's not a good guy. He's not a good guy. He's a very bad guy. So I could see that.
It's like George Kennedy would have been interesting, and he was definitely one of the bigger actors at the time period. Nicholson would have been interesting. I'm glad that I'm glad that he ended up choosing to do Batman in '89 to play the Joker. Instead of doing that. I'm glad he ended up doing that, rather, not that he chose one over the other. I'm glad that that's what we ended up seeing him in. But man, I'm with Jeremy. The idea of Gene Wilder, that would be wild.
It could even be Wilder.
Yeah, that would be insane to see. I wish there was some machine.
I'll see myself out live.
I wish there was some machine in which I could travel to a different dimension or parallel timeline where we actually got Gene Wilder playing Lex Luthor, just so I could see what that would look like. Somebody hit up the AI machine and get me a picture of Gene Wilder as Lex Luthor. That's interesting to me. That's kind of interesting. I can't picture it in my head, but I feel like that would be interesting. You know what I mean? Like that's something that would be worth checking out.
I do have to give credit to Dr. Nick for winning the internet today. In the comments, he says, "Yeah, I'm baby Superman. Now suck this grown-up Superman dick." Like that wins internet for today. Like, here's your trophy, sir. You win for the day. You know, you can go celebrate now. Like,
to you, sir.
Yeah, there you
go. But you know who could have directed this? And here's a little bit of a horror connection for you, Tex. Let's see. I'll go with this shot because I haven't used it yet. Oh, what I do, I lost it. Damn, there it is. William Friedkin, along with Sam Peckinpah, offered the chance to direct this film. Wow. Friedkin turned down the offer outright, where Peckinpah dropped out of the running when he produced a gun during a meeting with Ilya Salkind.
Well, Friedkin's no better. He was firing off shotguns on set to get Reagan to jerk her head around in the shot in the bedroom, and he didn't tell anybody he was going to fire off a shotgun. Not to mention, he jerked Reagan's mama across the room and messed her back up. So could you imagine what he'd do to poor Christopher? He probably would have crippled Christopher Reeve before the horse got to him. You know what I'm saying? He would have been like, "All right, Superman, flop," pulled the rope, and he would have snapped his neck or something. But hey, I'm down for some Friedkin. I've always liked that guy. Go watch it. There's a documentary about the making of The Exorcist, which is really just about Friedkin. He's a son of a bitch, but I like that guy. He's cool. I dig him.
Yeah, so is what's his name? Rosemary's Baby.
Forget the horse zombies. Super.
Yeah, you know what? Well, yeah, you could do the Deceased line. The Deceased version of the
Deceased is one of my favorite comics. I don't want a live action because it won't be as good, but they need to make like 3 animated movies of Deceased. That would be incredible.
Like they did with like What If. Like, give me DC zombies.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, please.
Well, Jeremy, do you want some more connections between this film and Star Wars?
All right.
There is some behind-the-scenes connection between this film and Star Wars. The Kryptonian costumes that they were in the beginning, the ones that were already kind of glowing.
I think I know where you're going with this. I think
they were made of Scotch light. It's a material used to make movie screens and reflective clothing. It was also used for the lightsaber blades in the Star Wars franchise.
I was like,
as is the lettering on expressway signs. Also, Carrie Fisher was considered for the role of Lois Lane, and George Lucas actually turned down the chance to direct this movie in favor of getting Star Wars going.
Well, yeah, that was the year.
Wow,
before. That's kind of fair. I could definitely, with the fucking, fierceness that is just
how
Carrie
different.
Fisher. She could definitely be Lois Lane. I could believe that.
How different would the world be if George Lucas made Superman and didn't do Star Wars? Think about that for a minute.
I think he would
That's
have done
gnarly.
Star Wars eventually, because Star Wars was his passion project from way before.
He'd been doing that for
Right, but what I'm saying is, think of the change in our current timeline. If Star Wars doesn't come out at the certain point that it does, maybe it's as not as big of a hit as it is today. Well, as what Star Wars used to be. Now it sucks because they just agendified it to where nobody wants to watch. I never want to see anything Star Wars ever again. I'll be real honest with you.
You don't want to see Ray Skywalker?
I do not. I do not want to see Ray Skywalker getting pregnant by a Force ghost. Knock off Darth Vader. I'm good. No, thank you, Disney. You killed Star Wars. Good job. But yeah, no, that's one of those like timeline changing events things that could be, the world would be very different if that had happened. That's interesting.
I kind of want an orange lightsaber. Never seen an orange.
Oh yeah, no, I'm totally red. Yeah, give me I want a blood. I want a blood. Give me a blood red lightsaber, please. Just
yeah, but we've seen red lightsabers though.
No, well, there are different tones of some red ones. I know where he's going with this. There are ones that are like a deeper. Yeah, I could see that.
I do like.
I want Maul's lightsaber.
Ahsoka's are fun.
I want Maul's lightsaber from episode 1. I've always loved that double blade lightsaber. That is still my favorite out of any of them.
You know what? That one kind of fits text because if you know how it was made, that kind of works. It's got like 4 crystals in it or something, and it's like all sat there like by the forge for I don't know how many days, pouring straight hatred into each one of those crystals to make that saber. And I'm like, that's badass as shit. I'm not gonna lie.
Darth Maul is my favorite Star Wars character ever. He is number 1 for me. Will always be my favorite Star Wars character. So. You know, I'm a Maul fan. I'll take Maul over any of them, but you know, it is what it is.
Except for Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan cut him in half.
Yeah, but if you, he didn't kill him though. He lived and got robot legs. He was fine. He didn't need him. Yeah, now, unfortunately, he did cut him.
Really?
Just saying. Now, see, I'd be more upset about losing my pecker than losing my legs because then you can't, you know, do other things. But you know. That's beside the point. So,
got a big robot dick.
Back to that dick comment again.
Well.
Now, this is probably in the Donner cut, which I don't know that I've ever actually seen it. When I watched it for this review, I just watched it on HBO Max. But apparently, the little girl that is watching the teenage Clark run really fast. Did you know that is apparently Lois Lane? There is nothing about it in the version that I watched, which I guess is the original theatrical version or something close to it, that says who that is. But apparently that was Lois Lane. It was a little girl. Well, anyway, I'm going to have to try to find the Donner cut so that I can see if they expand on that because it never says.
Well, see, they did kind of a similar thing in the Smallville show by introducing Lois Lane into Smallville like way before Clark ever goes to Metropolis. So all that is just trying to retcon, you know, when those two meet up because obviously they end up together or whatever. But I mean, I'm not offended by that comment. It sounds off. Like I don't really think it works. It's not needed. You know?
Yeah, it's like I said. It doesn't say so in the movie that I watched on Max, but it whatever. But that little girl in the scene. Her mother is actually someone with a very, very deep and long-standing connection to the Superman character. Her mother that was sitting next to her on the train was played by Noelle Neal. Noelle Neal, of course, played Lois Lane in the 1940s and 50s. She played it in Superman in 1948, Adam Man vs. Superman in 1950, and The Adventures of Superman in 1952. She appears when the young Lois sees Clark Kent running extremely fast in the train window. Also,
if anybody, that should have been Lana Lane, not Lois. It should have been Lana.
No, Lana was the cheerleader that he talks to. She's only in there for like 1
scene. But his childhood love was Lana. Then he doesn't meet Lois, well, in most versions, until he goes to Metropolis. That's whenever he encounters her. That's what I'm saying.
The guy that is her dad in that movie was someone too, and I forget who it was. Let me try to pull it up real quick.
Yeah, I can't remember.
You don't really get a good look at the dad's face anyway. You kind of get a side view of him. Let me see if I can pull up who that was.
I can't remember in these original movies. Does Lois say her dad was the general? Because I mean, it's General Sam Lane in the comics and every other version. Does she talk
I don't think
a
she ever
dad
touches
being
on
a
it.
general?
I don't think she ever
I don't think
touches
she does
on
either.
it in the Christopher Reeve movies.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. Because in the comics and shows and movies and every other iteration of the story, they use General Sam Lane, which is a main Superman character. I don't think he gets mentioned in the original 4 Reeve films. I can't think that he does, though. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and watch him. Let's see. Not sure.
Let's see. Oh, Larry Hagman's in the movie as well. I don't know if you guys caught that or not.
I did not.
When
Really?
when the army guys are driving by and he needs to reprogram the missiles and she's distracting him by laying there on the side of the road, Larry Hagman is the general that's like, she is mouth to mouth. He goes, oh, well, I'll take care of this. That's Larry Hagman.
Something I wouldn't do. I want to waste all your grunt.
I didn't pick up on that.
Oh, it was Kurt Allen.
Huh.
Okay. At the 28-minute mark, Kurt Allen plays Lois Lane's father. Allen played Superman in Superman 1948 and Adam Man versus Superman in 1950. He is the father when young Lois appears to see Clark Kent running extremely fast through the train window. Okay. So that was Kurt Allen. That's who it was. I don't know why I didn't remember that.
Okay. Interesting. I'll be dog.
I knew that. Yeah, I knew it was somebody else. I had read it all, but that's all for the trivia. But hey, that's a good place to wrapping things up. We managed to go a good 2 hours talking about Superman. I think we could go a lot longer if we really wanted to carry on, but it is getting kind of late.
Oh, yeah.
And but thanks to my amazing co-host for coming to hang out with me as always. I'll go to you first, Jeremy. Give me some of your final thoughts on the original Superman from 1978.
What a way to start, right? When I say start, but what a way to start off with this modern superhero. I know we've seen superhero stuff before, but as a big step up and a pretty important piece of film that is in the superhero genre, I mean, what better again to go with the actual OG of Superman? So, it's definitely a must watch. I would dare to say the sequel, but maybe don't put yourself through 3 and definitely not 4. So
yeah, stop at 2. Don't go no further.
It's not terrible. It's not great. It's not bad.
Stop at 2.
All right, I won't tell you not to. I'm like, if you want to watch it, make your own. I mean, look, I've watched Batman Forever. I've watched all that shit, and I'm like, well, that wasn't good, was it?
What's that? I've never heard of that. Is that a Batman movie? I'll have to check that out. I've never seen that before.
That is, in fact, a Batman movie. You might want to grab a pillow because it's going to hit you pretty fucking hard. He's going to need a fucking airbag. Tex is going to need mouth to mouth after fucking watching that movie. Where the hell was I? Anyway, no, yeah, it's kind of again, it's something you always think back to whenever you see this little logo. You think of Superman, like most of us probably harken right back to Christopher Reeve. So again, definitely worth a watch. And I think I said it somewhere up there before. I'm like, you're just kind of engrossed in the story. You don't even care there's a wire. You don't care that it's a green screen. It's like it's just a fun superhero movie. So it's definitely a recommended.
Tex, how about you? What are your final thoughts on the 1978 film Superman?
Yeah, great cast. Very, very important to the genre because without this film laying out a blueprint of what can be done, we wouldn't have most of what we do today. Not the best version of Superman, not the best telling of this story, but it's one that needs to be checked out at least once, I would say. It's iconic for a reason. So.
Yeah, this movie is one of the standard bearers for all superhero films. I mean, you got to remember, this was the best superhero film made until at least Batman came out in 89, about 10 years later. And then up until probably the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out, it was still considered, maybe it was arguably the best superhero film ever made. Now, since then, there have been a million of them made, and a lot of them have been quote unquote better in many ways, not as good in other ways. But I mean, it is the measuring stick for all superhero films. It's one of the OG, the cornerstones of the genre. And without this movie being made by these people who made it and were a part of making it, I don't know that superhero films today would look the same. But we still have gotten an MCU probably eventually. We still have gotten a DCEU eventually. Would they have put Superman on film eventually? Yeah, they would have. But would we have had this standard bearer, this whole thing to kind of be the cornerstone that this entire genre is filmed on? So, or is held up against, is measured to. So, yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Like I said, I nostalgically like this one more than I like all the other Supermans. But I mean, is it the best film? I don't know. It's open to interpretation. Like I said, I think that the stuff that DC and Zack Snyder did with their Superman was pretty good. But I mean, it was different. It was good, it was modern, but it was different.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's a fantastic movie. Again, it's from a different era of filmmaking. I don't care that the special effects at times look kind of crappy, like he's obviously just moving around in a wire in front of a projection screen behind him. It's projecting some footage that a helicopter took of New York. I don't care. As the farther we get away from that, the little bit of extra magic that I kind of feel from it. Maybe it's part nostalgia, part understanding where we are today with visual effects as opposed to where we were. There's still something magical about this movie that it's really hard, that really no movie's duplicated since. Have there been better films? Sure. Have there been magical films like this? Not many that I could really list, not quickly anyway. But you guys can go find this movie. It's on HBO. It's on HBO Max. If you have a subscription to that, all the DC stuff is over there. You can go watch it. I'm sure the other 17 movies that they've made that were all not quite as good are on there as well. We'll get around to doing Superman 2 at some point, I promise.
Oh yeah.
But we're gonna space out some of the older DC stuff like this, the Tim Burton stuff, because I want to savor it. You know what I mean? I don't want to just blow through it and be done. I want to savor it a little bit because these were actually very, very good movies that are a lot of fun to watch. They're going to be a lot of fun.
Frank's saying he wants to savor the bat nipples.
I want to savor the bat nipples. Yes,
I'm going to be sick for when we do that one. I'm seeing as I've never heard of this movie and never seen it. I can't review it, so y'all have to do that one yourself. So.
Wow, we're jealous. He's going to watch it for the first time. I wish I could be you.
There's got to be a shirt somewhere that's got bat nipples on it. I will find that shirt.
I'm sure. I'm sure there
got to be.
I'm
going to take two little suction cups and just stick them to his fucking shirt.
As soon as we're done here, I'm going to Amazon. I'm just going to search bat nipple shirt. I guarantee I'm going to find something.
Hey,
oh god damn it! Now
George Clooney to this day still apologizes for that mess. So that needs to be mentioned ahead of time. So
Schumacher's gone now, so he can't really answer for it anymore.
Yeah, well, Joel Schumacher, he had his own proclivities that he could not help but shove into his movies with 15 ass shots of Batman every time you put the fucking costume on. So it is what it is, but whatever.
Hey,
so.
Sex sells. Sex sells.
He did at least give us
not that kind, but hey, it's all good. Whatever.
Thanks to my amazing co-host. Being so wonderful as always. Again, we're hoping to have Cora back for the next show. She had a hot day tonight that she'll go over all the details. I'm sure eventually when she goes back. But yeah, so we'll have her back soon. Also, we're going to be going back in the Downton Abbey stuff soon. I swear to God, me and Cora have been talking about it. I want to try to finish off talking about that series and doing the movies. We had planned on doing this shit about 3 years ago, being done with this, and just like life kept getting in the way. But we're going to get back to that as well. That'll probably just be a thing that me and Cora do. I don't know if Jeremy or Tex is going to want to get in on that. Tex, I mean, you want to catch up on Downton Abbey season 3? I mean, it's on Prime.
I would rather circumcise myself with rusty scissors. No, thank you. I'm good.
I've seen the two movies, but I'm like, I have no damn clue what's going on because I have no context of the show.
I don't need to see pretentious British people, talking about whatever nonsense they're talking about. I'll be over here watching trashy 80s horror films with gratuitous nudity and violence if you need me. So you know where to find me. It's all good.
But there is also 28 Days Later, which is a British zombie film, which is a pretty damn good movie, though, to be fair.
Yeah, but at least they're eating each other. If in Downton Abbey the zombie outbreak happens, you call me. other than that, I'm not interested. So figure it out for yourself.
That was late season 3. You have to watch the whole season, then you can jump in and talk about
You gotta do your homework to get to the good stuff. You can't just jump in the middle of the chapter.
I know I can't just show you the third act and expect you to review the whole movie. Come on, man. You gotta watch the whole thing. All in one big mosaic, one big picture. Thanks to my coach for being so awesome. Jeremy, where can the folks find you on the internet?
I'm always here. Tuesday, Thursdays, whenever we're doing stuff. I definitely need to get with you, Frank, a little bit more in case we have something like that happen again where I tried to lead the show and I just didn't have the means to. But it's all good.
It would have been fine had I not forgotten my phone sitting on my couch.
It's all right.
It's all good.
I have led the show before. If you want to see that atrocity, it's me and Tex doing Saw. So that's in our catalog here. And
there's there's almost 10 hours of it. So
me and my big fucking mouth, we keep doing a series of stuff because I won't stop making puns. So if you see us start talking about Walking Dead, I mean that might happen. So now that it's over, we can take a retrospective look back at it, the main body of the show at least. But no, I'm always here, and I'm on. I don't really do stuff. I'm making a cosplay, but I'm like, I know I need to do the steps, but I haven't quite put everything together yet. So I'll start putting some stuff out there on Instagram. Everything's the same name on everything. And I know I shouted out Brooding Gamer and his 12 different YouTube channels that he runs. I'm in there somewhere, I'm sure. As the Ian Malcolm character in his Jurassic Park videos, because of course I am. I don't know what gives that away. Maybe it's the low cut open shirts and the glasses. Yeah, that's what it is. And I also tend to suck at Fortnite, as Frank so eloquently puts it when we do that nonsense. That's about it, honestly. So I'm in places.
And to the shape, the Lone Star State, my man Tex. Where can the folks don't find you on the internet, sir?
Here Tuesdays and Thursdays when Frank's not being erased off to the Phantom Zone and we can't do a show live. Maybe Saturday. I know there's been some discussion for watching Frank's, awful 49ers and those nasty Green Bay Packers who cheated, by the way. They cheated. Well, that may or may not happen. Not sure yet, but we'll figure that. But as I stated on the New Year's show, I am diving back into the 2000s era of horror, and I've decided to do it. I thought about, do I do it in like date order, start at, January 1st, 2000 and work my way through, but I've decided to do it one franchise at a time, and I'm in the middle of the Final Destination films. Ooh. And I forgot how much I enjoyed these. And, if you want a fun time with a movie you don't really have to worry too much about, with cool deaths, check out the Final Destination series, and I'm having fun with it. So in the little free time that I have, but yeah, we'll be here Tuesdays and Thursdays otherwise. So it's all good.
You want to talk about Jaws traumatizing an entire generation of people to not go swimming? Those fucking movies traumatized me. Yeah, to not drive behind a goddamn truck carrying pipes, trees, nothing. Don't drive behind that shit because of that movie.
Oh yeah.
No.
Hey, Final Destination made people afraid of puddles of water in their house that might end up electrocuting them. Okay, they need credit for something for like that. That takes effort, buddy. So kudos to them.
You don't.
And the great Tony Todd's in it, of course. So you can't not give Tony Todd credit. So it's all good.
My victim.
As for me, you can find me here on Tuesdays and Thursdays going over reviewing whatever movie we're going to review. Actually, next, I think our next review on Tuesday is going to be Batman '89, the Tim Burton. The Tim Burton's probably best film. A little bit better than Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but I mean, probably his best film by far. And again, I am not a big Tim Burton fan. He's either hit or miss, but I mean, his two Batman movies were absolute gold. I mean, they were just fantastic films. So you can find us here on Tuesday talking about that. Hopefully, Corey will be back with us. And then that is all for tonight. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us tonight. We very much appreciate it. We will see you guys on Tuesday as we talk about. Until then, adios. You know what I don't get, honestly, about this is he spent all this time learning all the knowledge about the human race and did not, at some point, learn CPR so that he could save Lois from this damn truck. I mean, come on.
Well, I don't know if
I mean, realistically,
get a bunch of rocks out of someone's esophagus.
He could have done CPR without ever touching her. He could have blown 5 miles away and like aimed his breath, and it could have worked. I mean, very,
done
very.
CPR and fucking like caved her chest and killed her. Like, you don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying.